Hello, welcome to the second day of our live stream from the DNC New Orleans spring meeting. We got a long one today, and it seems right now we have some activists out in the street. We're going to head there in just a minute. Quickly, my name is Ryan Black. I'm the organizing director with Roots Action and editor at Progressive Hub. And with me is my colleague Sam, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Sam Rosenthal. I'm the political director at Roots Action.
Excellent. You want to go ahead and add your title to your name card there.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And we're going to go right now to outside the DNC meeting where we have protesters making some noise. So here we go.
DNC, your choice is to stand against genocide, stand against war crimes, illegal wars, or to lose and be thrown away in the dustbin of history forever. And if you refuse to make that choice, if you choose life, to choose against genocide, you deserve it. That's right. Thank you very much.
Israel bomb!
Oh, they got muted. Grant, if you can unmute that, that's just great to see. And yeah, show us some of the signs. Show us what's going on.
Israel bomb! USA fails! How many kids did you kill today? How many kids did you kill? Israel bomb! USA fails!
Quite a contingent out there, Sam. That looks definitely like they're making some noise. They got the drum, they got the loudspeaker. They're definitely being heard and seen, it would appear. Was this what it was like yesterday there as well?
This is a much bigger turnout than we saw yesterday. And for context, this is right outside of the hotel where DNC members are meeting. The general meeting is coming up soon. So most everyone who's at this DNC meeting is going to be right there on the ground floor of this hotel. We've got the truck right outside of the hotel. And this is otherwise a really sedate event. It's not like there are other competing protest activities, competing loud protest events happening. So this is going to make quite an impression on people who are just coming in and out of the hotel. It's kind of towards the end of lunchtime here. There were still a lot of folks streaming. It's going to be noticed.
Say that last part again, Sam.
Oh, definitely something that's going to be noticed. There's a lot of foot traffic here. All of the DNC members are going to be coming in and out.
Does it seem like the inaction yesterday where the DNC essentially punted on anything related to Israel, AIPAC, Gaza, even Iran, do you think that has motivated these people to be out there?
Definitely. And there was a fair amount of press coverage of what happened in the resolutions committee yesterday, probably more than the DNC would have liked to see. So I think that there is some burgeoning awareness that people have that while this issue was litigated a lot during the 2024 presidential campaigns, this is still a live issue in the Democratic Party. It's another, I think, I saw a commentator yesterday say that this is a 90-10 issue with the base, which wants no more weapons shipments to Israel. And it's a 10-90 issue with the DNC, who is working very hard to block any of these resolutions from happening. So this is definitely, while these protesters outside might seem like they're sort of disrupting this otherwise nice meeting, these voices are actually more representative of the Democratic Party base than what we're seeing inside the resolutions meeting at the DNC right now.
I totally agree. And you can see that from some of the flyers that Roots Action put together for the protesters down there, which go through some of the statistics. I don't know if you have one of those in front of you. Maybe you could show us.
I think they've got them all outside.
Oh, they got them all down there?
Yeah, let me see if I have one here.
Yeah, they have flyers down there. Let me try to pull one up here. Let's hear what's going on down there for a minute.
Iraq and now Iran.
They tell lies and then they fall.
They tell lies and then they fall.
First Iraq and now Iran.
First Iraq and now Iran.
They tell lies and then they fall.
They tell lies and then they fall.
First Iraq and now Iran.
First Iraq and now Iran.
They tell
Love to see the people out there chanting. Love that they have the speaker too. I mean, that's how you know the people inside are definitely hearing it. Some of these statistics that were passed out on a flyer, 72% of Democrats say Israel has committed genocide in Gaza, and yet the DNC punted on it and referred it back to a committee that many of them aren't even sure is real, and did not provide a report today. 71% of Democrats want to condition aid to Israel. 78% support Medicare for all. 77% support abolishing ICE. No movement there. 62% of Democrats say that the party leadership should be replaced. No movement there. 39%, only 39% of Democrats support Chuck Schumer to continue on as leader. So he should probably step down immediately. You can't call yourself the Democratic Party with numbers like that. And then lastly, 76% of Democrats say dark money has too much influence, which the DNC passed a resolution about yesterday. But in doing so, they went through and revised it and took out all mentions of AIPAC, of AI, of crypto, of any of the actual groups that are causing the most issue. And then this stat was wild to me. Basically, half of Democrats will not support a candidate who takes money from AIPAC or the Israel lobby. And I think that's got to be your biggest stat if you're the DNC. You got to look at that and say, we're clearly losing voters.
Yeah, and AIPAC, again, this is a group that is also funded many, many Republicans. It should be easy for the Democratic Party to say, well, this is a group that funds Trumpism, that funds the right wing, and we're not going to take money from them. But as you're saying, what we saw yesterday was that they went through very deliberately and stripped all the language from these dark money resolutions so that there was no particular mention of AIPAC or, as you're saying, the crypto lobby, AI lobbies. And that it defangs these resolutions when they do that. It makes it seem like the argument we heard yesterday, and we were discussing this, was that it's unfair to single out particular lobby groups. I don't know. First of all, I'm not sure that we need to worry about fairness when it comes to dark money lobbying groups.
Right.
I'm not sure that that's an important consideration. But also, this is the way that these resolutions kind of lose their teeth, is that now it's just this sort of general platitudinous resolution that says, well, we don't think dark money is good in general, but without pointing to the specific lobbies that have done really outsized spending. It's not like we're singling out AIPAC just because we feel particular animus towards them. We do, but also it's because they're one of the biggest spenders in Democratic primaries right now. They're spending millions and millions of dollars over the last couple of years to stop progressive candidates from winning, to put their thumb on the scale. So there's a really particular reason that those groups are being singled out, and it's because they're spending enormous amounts of money. It's not just because we want to bully AIPAC and beat up on them.
Right. I saw someone on Twitter, and I'm sorry I won't be able to tell you exactly who, but it was the all lives matterification of it, where they're taking,
Yes.
We have this very specific thing we're worried about, and then they're turning it into all lives matter. Well, all corporate donors are bad, instead of focusing on the actual specific acute issue that's hurting the party right now.
Yeah, and again, I think this is a really important dividing line in the party. You saw Elizabeth Warren, who's generally considered to be somewhere close to the party's left flank, really praising that resolution yesterday after that language was stripped out of it and calling it a big step forward for the DNC. And then we saw Bernie Sanders saying the opposite, saying that this is actually a failure and that it's really important to call out these lobbies by name. And so, again, even though, Bernie is seen as being kind of on the radical fringe of the party, his opinion actually aligns with the base much more than Elizabeth Warren's, and certainly than someone like Chuck Schumer. So it's really, the DNC wants to make it seem like they've turned the page. This is a new DNC that has a different modus operandi, a different way of going about things. But it's really more of the same. I saw Jamie Harrison, former DNC chair, in the lobby just a few minutes ago. And, this could easily just be a DNC that's being run by Jamie Harrison. There's really no difference between his tenure and Ken Martin's tenure, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it's been extremely disappointing. Let's head back to the protesters outside for a minute. The DNC program is about to begin, but for now, let's listen to some protesters for a minute.
For things like ending our support of Israel, ending AIPAC's influence of our politicians, and things outside of war, but for things like raising the minimum wage, easier access to unions. These things are possible in the system we have now. And these are the type of reforms that, first off, show working people the type of power they have when they come together and fight for something together. And it also shows that as we come together as a class, as working people, we can make a difference. We have power. And as we continue to make these changes, as we continue to win these little battles, we get closer and closer to that ceiling. And when we get to that ceiling, that's when people begin to realize there's a limit to what we can do within the system. We must think outside of it. We must expand how we view politics. We have to fight to bring people to that ceiling. Now, that is not the same as saying there's no point in working with a third party. I'm sitting up here as a member of a third party, but I am not a proponent of throwing shit at the wall and expecting it to work. I don't want to be in a third party that throws a candidate up for president every 4 years as sort of a vanity campaign to build a little, boost a little publicity, fade off into obscurity for another 4 years, and do that over and over and over again. We live in this winner-takes-all system, first-past system. That is not viable. That is not how you gain political power in the system currently existing. There is a obvious want and need for working people for a genuine working party that represents them. The way we build that is from the ground up. City councils, school boards, electing our people to the small positions that are often uncontested elections in a lot of the country. Building up, winning trust, showing people that our platform can actually make things happen that makes their lives better on the small scale. Winning that trust and gaining enough trust to then fill in bigger and bigger seats. We can't electoral politics our way into liberation, but we can electoral politics our way into living better lives with slightly more dignity that give us a little more time and a little more security to fight the good fight. Now, this is something that the SA has started doing, and this is something that my party has started doing. The Communist Party already has. We have in the Ithaca City Council, Ithaca, New York City Council, we have a member elected there. We have the School Board of Cambridge of Massachusetts. We have 2 members there. This is something we started doing, but it's not something that everybody can sit back and wait for. You can't just say, oh, gee, it would be really cool to one day be able to vote for a socialist or a communist over a Democrat on my ticket and actually believe they could win. You can't just wait for that to happen. We have to make that happen. We have to organize. We have to join these organizations. We have to fight a 3-pronged battle at this moment of American politics. That 3-pronged battle is exerting the influence we have over the Democratic Party, who are already in a position of power and are able to make change. They have what we want. And we, at this moment, can exert our influence to push them a little closer to our politics. The second part of that is building a viable electoral party that is able to represent working class interests on the national scale, starting from the local scale. And the third part of that is doing the important work of organizing politically outside of electoral politics. Unions have power. Workers have power when they come together. Voting does make a difference, but voting is not the end-all, be-all, nor is it the most effective strategy to make a difference. This is not a focus on one thing and let the other fall to the wayside for someone else to pick up the slack. We as working people have to organize and fight on all fronts that we can. There are multiple avenues to political influence, political power, reform, and building the building blocks of a socialist society. And we have to fight for all those things at once. This is a moment in history where a lot of people are waking up to the fact that neither party truly represents the interests of working people. We can't let that boost of consciousness we're seeing around the country slip by us. We have to latch onto it and use that to build trust with us, working people. I'm a fucking stagehand. I work for $19 an hour. I know there's people out here in the service industry. There's people out here who work for hotels. We are the working class. All of us standing around here, we're working people. We have an immense amount of political power that has been hidden by us through propaganda and rhetoric that has always been there. And we can utilize it, grasp it, and make a real difference. Exert our influence. Tell them to stop taking AIPAC money, because that does make a difference in the short term. We have to build long-term strategies that allow us to have political autonomy outside of the Democratic Party. like I said, I didn't write shit, so this is all off the dome, and I don't have that much more to add. Thank you so much for your time. If you're interested about the Communist Party, come talk to me or come talk.
Well-spoken activist there. Looks like they got a good group down there. Sam, do you know what all groups are down there today?
I'm not sure, actually. I know there were some members of JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, members of DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. It seems like there are a few others down there as well. I think that was someone from the CP that we just heard from. So it's a good mix of folks. It actually looks like the group is bigger every time we cut back to this feed, which is very cool. So I'm very encouraged to see how many people have turned out for this. And obviously lots of DNC members coming by to take photos and that sort of thing. There was someone playing the bagpipes out there earlier, and that got a lot of attention as well.
I posted a video of our truck going by, or of the truck going by, and I heard that I wasn't sure what they were.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They were quite loud. You could hear them inside the hotel as well.
Yeah,
so.
I was thinking like 2016 Vuvuzela, whenever that year, you know, I wasn't sure what the noise was, but that makes a lot of sense. Bagpipes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Norman Solomon is going to be joining us in about 30 minutes or so. And the DNC meeting was supposed to begin about 10 minutes ago. It has not begun yet. We are live, and they are not live. So a whopping 21 people waiting on their stream. So
So I'll be curious to see what happens during this meeting. It's the only sort of not committee specific meeting that they're having at the DNC this weekend. So this is kind of a more open meeting. There's some.
What does that mean? What does an open meeting mean? Can anyone say anything, or is it going to be really they're going to have a strict agenda? What's your expectation of this meeting?
I think they'll have a strict agenda. I think there is a potential for some kind of disruption via parliamentary procedure, but I don't know what that would be exactly. I think we'll see on the live stream if that happens. Yesterday during the committee meetings, there is a pretty strict observance of, Robert's rules, whatever parliamentary procedure they're using. So it's not the case that you hear a lot of commentary from the floor. But the other thing that's important to understand, I think, for folks who aren't there, is that there is a pretty sizable contingent of DNC members who are really unhappy with how things went at the resolutions committee yesterday. We talked to some of them, and there are a number of people who are still strategizing about what they can do to try to shift the direction of the DNC and of the party. It's not that this was one fight that they've lost and now they're going to step away. So the DNC is really, again, they're keen to present as this kind of united front that they speak with one voice. But actually, what we're going to see more and more, I think, is that there's real political disagreement within the DNC, especially as more young members join the DNC, people who come from progressive political backgrounds, from organizing backgrounds, join the DNC. And that appears to be happening more and more. So I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on, not just right now, but over the next couple of years, as there's more interest in being involved in the kind of internal party processes.
Right, and hopefully there is more interest, because I think right now the DNC is a bit of a mysterious enigma. No one's really, I don't think most people even know how these members are selected, how to become a DNC member, how to influence them, or really how much power they have and what they do in shaping the party. When it's convenient for them, they don't have any power, but when it's convenient in other ways, they have lots of power. So it's really interesting how they operate. And yeah, I think the mystery of it all needs to be unraveled, and people need to be invited into the party. Ken Martin promised the most transparent DNC that we'd ever seen. Maybe it started that way. But since then, I think, especially with the autopsy, I think how you were treated yesterday, it was weird. We've not seen that. We've not seen any change. We've not seen any bold leadership to stand up for what the Democratic voters are saying their values are. you have a situation where the leadership is determining the values of the voters instead of the voters determining the values of their leadership. So I don't know. Yeah. How do you think the best way to go about changing this is?
I mean, I think that the DNC, like the rest of the Democratic Party, still has an enthusiasm problem. Voters aren't enthusiastic about Democrats. They're not enthusiastic about the DNC. And one of the ways that they can gin up more enthusiasm is to make these processes more transparent. From the DNC through electoral processes all the way up to party leadership, to make this seem like a more appealing party that people want to get involved with. It's really one of the things that I'm concerned about, I think, is that Trump being so unpopular right now with such low favorabilities is really masking how unpopular the Democratic Party is too. It's still a party that there's really not a lot of enthusiasm for. And I don't, it feels like kind of beating your head against the wall, but it seems that after multiple cycles of having to learn this lesson, that the party can't just say, Donald Trump is worse. What are you going to do? Are you going to vote for Donald Trump? Voters' answers, have been, yeah, we are going to vote for Donald Trump. It's twice that's happened to the party over the last 3 cycles. And so I think that they still have a big enthusiasm problem. They have to figure out how to get younger people who are, younger than 50 excited about the party. And as you walk around the DNC, you still see a lot of older folks here who are staffing the most senior positions, and commensurate with what we see from electeds and electeds in leadership in the Democratic Party, that seniority still rules the day, and the people who are most senior in the Democratic Party tend to be much more conservative. And I think if the party continues to stay that course and continues to have this sort of de facto attitude towards younger, more progressive activists in the party, that they have to wait their turn, they can't speak up about things they care about,
please. We'll be starting.
It's going to continue to hurt the party.
Yeah, and getting those younger voices involved, that's the difficult part. It's hard to want to be involved in some ways. Let's see if we got our DNC meeting starting now. Here we are. All right, let's get some volume going. Now, there's a chance that this meeting is total nonsense, where nothing happens and they pat each other on the back a lot. But I am hoping for some fireworks. This is going to be a room filled with people, much larger than these committee meetings, bigger than the resolutions committee meeting. So this is the time. If someone was going to disrupt, protest, yell, ignore the rules, now's the time to do it. So over the next 2 hours, 2.5 hours, hopefully somebody steps up and makes a case that the Democratic Party needs to change. Specifically, the leadership of the Democratic Party needs to change.
Yep, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see shortly.
I'll share a tweet with you that India sent out. Did you see the tweet India sent out last night or yesterday?
No, I think I missed it. Let's take a look.
Says, I'm at the DNC spring meeting and it's full of real loser behavior. Not a backbone in sight. 630 retweets, 5.7 thousand likes.
Let's go. I mean, it is really interesting to see this stuff happen in person and see how strong the drive towards falling in line is here. We saw it during the resolutions committee meeting yesterday, and I was talking to some of the activists who had worked on those resolutions, the more controversial ones, and they were shocked to see some people who flipped, basically, who they thought were in their corner, who flipped their votes when it came time for the actual voice vote to happen. It wasn't a number of people who would have made a difference. That vote was going to fail anyway. But some people, really kind of turned their backs on people that they had been organizing with prior to that. And that
which resolution was that?
On resolution 14 in particular.
Oh, okay. The first Gaza one.
Yeah. And also on some of the money and politics resolutions, but particularly the Gaza resolution. And that can only be, that kind of flipping, I think, only happens because there's pressure from above. There was, some reporting that unnamed members of the party who are likely going to run for president in 2028, so you can kind of think about who those people might be. We're calling DNC members to lobby them not to vote for some of these resolutions. So when the DNC tries to say that it's siloed, it doesn't do policy, it's separate from legislators, it's separate from the electeds. It's just really important to remember that stuff like that happens all the time, and that's actually much more representative of the relationship between the DNC and electeds than it is, that they're completely siloed off from one another.
Right. And because we can't get in trouble for it, we should guess who they are. Ro Khanna came out and demanded to know who the two potential 2028 candidates were who led that effort.
Yep.
And of course, they haven't come out and said anything, but the lack of denial speaks volumes as well.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised to find out Newsom or someone like that was one of them.
Yep. We know that J.B. Pritzker was also in favor of the dark money resolutions because he said it publicly. The unamended dark money resolutions that kept that AIPAC language in, and he's been pretty critical of AIPAC publicly. So he's another one that it looks like would have been in favor of those passing. So, we can kind of cross him off that list. Obviously, we can cross Ro Khanna off the list. But yeah, I think, these were probably candidates who think of themselves as likely front runners who don't want to have this baggage to deal with heading into 2028.
Please take
and the two front runners I can think of are Newsom and Harris.
Yep. And we saw again Harris today kind of doing another round of teasing a likely presidential run.
Hillary was doing a bus tour in 2014 during the midterms Democrats, in preparation for her 26, and she wasn't running.
Good afternoon, Democratic National Committee members, and welcome to our spring meeting here in the great state of Louisiana.
For those who don't know, this is Ken Martin. This is that leader of the DNC.
This meeting to order.
For what, a year?
Please
maybe?
Rise if you are able
for
the presentation of the colors by the Warren Easton Charter High School Color Guard Unit. I'd like to ask ASDC President Jane Klebb to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
So just for context, this is kind of the only time that you'll see this critical mass of almost all the DNC members in the room together.
Right, yeah. Which is shocking for a party to only really meet as a group once a year. I mean, isn't that bizarre? It seems like meeting as a group is what your whole life would be. You'd be meeting constantly to improve the party. Definitely not every 6 months.
Of our families.
Is this the pledge? I assume.
Yeah, it looks like Jane Klebb, who's this is Jane Klebb. She's a vice chair of the DNC. She's the head of the ASDC, which is the Association of State Democratic Parties. So arguably like the second most important person in the DNC.
More of an ally to the left than Ken Martin, is my understanding.
He has been historically, but has moderated a lot recently. This is someone who was a Bernie Sanders delegate earlier in her career, but she's moderated a lot recently. She's from Nebraska. She's very interested in rural organizing, and I think has, ambitions that go beyond being just vice chair of the DNC, and has certainly moderated in her positions over the last 4 years or so. This is Shasti Conrad,
everyone.
Also a vice chair from Washington.
Members, please join me in welcoming Pastor Tom Watson with Watson Memorial Teaching Ministries, who will lead our invocation today. Thank you, Reverend Wilson.
You can have that on quietly in the back, but
Good afternoon.
This is just kind of the fluff, which most of this meeting will be fluff.
Yeah, and you can kind of see how this is built up. Committee meetings, they get right into business. There isn't like a lot of this sort of ceremonial pomp at the beginning. So you can see how this is being positioned to be sort of like the central cheerleading event of the weekend here, or of the couple of days here. The point of this is to gin up some good feelings and, have a little bit of ceremony so people feel like they're at an event here.
Right. They want to feel celebrated. They want to feel close to power, and they want to feel like their organization that they're a part of is so serious that they can put on a serious event. They want to feel like they're closer to America than the Republican Party is. And so you're going to have a lot of this traditional Americanism, the lots of flags and eagles, and the lighting's all pretty. And we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to do an invocation like it's a NASCAR race. We're going to do the whole thing to remind you all that we are like, this is the American Party.
Right. Yeah.
The theme of that chapter is that we be one. I'm a teacher preacher, so can you say one? And in my culture, one of the things I try to remind people of is that
Democrats
this
love
very
this type of
trying
stuff.
time that we're living in, that we should always try our best to remember the spirit of one.
So yeah, you're going to hear a lot of platitudes about how difficult the moment is, and how much the Democrats are going to be a force for change. But as we've seen a lot over the last few days, this is not actually a party that's really invested in change, or at least changing the way that they've gone about things.
Get to the prayer in a moment. I'm setting the atmosphere for the rest of your stay.
A question about the resolution yesterday.
Do I have a witness here?
Are they all, it seemed they were mostly just urging party members to act a certain way, but not, it doesn't force anyone to do anything.
Yeah, resolutions like this are mostly non-binding, and they're certainly not binding on electeds or people who are running for office. So I think the point of resolutions at the DNC, insofar as there is a point, is that you can then use those resolutions to point out misbehavior that is happening in an electoral campaign wherever you see it. So if this resolution about dark money had passed with the unamended language, and you had a candidate with a lot of APAC money supporting them, a lot of crypto money supporting them, I think it's easier to say, well, why are you running a campaign that directly contravenes a resolution that was passed by the DNC? It gives opponents that opening. So again, it's not like someone is automatically barred from running for a Democratic Party post, right, if they take APAC money now because of this resolution being passed. It's just that it's a statement of values from the Democratic Party, and it's potentially politically precarious to appear to be out of step with those values. But again, I mean, it's just like important to think about how little weight that has, and nevertheless how paranoid the party gets about passing things like that have any language that's kind of strongly worded.
Right. It seems like the corporate donors and the PACs are so afraid of this language, but us, the voters and the organizers, we know that it's mostly meaningless. We want them to pass good language. We want that stuff to lean on. But it seems like the Democrats would be better off lying about supporting good things, and just changing their mind like they do anyways once they get to a general. So yeah, it's just interesting. These resolutions, there's so much fighting about them. You have all this back channel communication happening on to kill these things. And ultimately, every Democratic presidential candidate turns their back on half of the DNC official party platform policies anyways, once they're in a general and the news media tells them they have to move to the center. So
yeah, I think there's just a fear of surfacing these things, that if you let the cat out of the bag, it will become more and more difficult to say that you still, are agnostic about funding from APAC or crypto or whatever. But it just seems like that's such a small step in the direction of, moving towards where the Democratic base is. So it really is a very, very conservative approach.
Unity for the sake of unity, where we saw the Republicans do the Tea Party thing, destroy themselves, and regrow with Trump at the helm, and he's the dominant political force in the country now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Republican Party has reinvented itself about 3 or 4 times in the last 20 years, whereas the Democratic Party is really not terribly different from the party that Bill Clinton, corralled when he ran for office in 1992. So it's pretty depressing to see how little change there's been.
My name is Melissa Darden.
My congressman, Marlon Stutzman, he was first elected in 2010. So he's a pre-Trump Republican. He's like a George Bush Republican. He tried to run for governor or something, or Senate, lost, was no longer in the House for a while. Jim Banks took his seat. Now Jim Banks is the senator. And Marlon Stutzman just came back in to be my representative. And he went from a George Bush Republican to now he's just a MAGA guy. He just rebranded himself with absolutely no reflection on any of his past behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just a completely different set of rules that the Republican Party plays by, and I think it's been really politically successful for them to try to chase the mood of the electorate rather than saying, planting in the ground and saying this is what we are, and if you don't like that, then maybe it's you who has the problem.
Right. Well, Republican and conservative voters also give their electeds way more slack. If you do flip-flop and you're on the left, you're gonna get destroyed. But if you're on the right, you can change your mind all the time, and they'll read between the lines. Trump wasn't saying he was gonna genocide Iran. You know how he talks. It's all of this.
Totally.
We'll bring the volume up on this meeting, see what they're talking about.
And we do not fault anyone for the past.
Can you hear them?
Today we have a thriving community with
I can't hear them terribly well.
And we are blessed to still be here as the sovereign nation.
Yesterday I could barely hear them as well.
The volume was pretty low, even in the room yesterday, I would say.
Yeah.
Some people appear to be better at talking into the microphone than others, though.
Yeah.
Thank you to Chairwoman Darden and Vice Chairwoman Boutad. I want to take this moment to thank our DNC Secretary, Jason Ray. Amazing Secretary, Jason Ray. We all
might comment on the video once they turn the volume up.
Work with him day in, day out. And I know you all know this because he's your first point of contact at the DNC. He works tirelessly for this organization. And so I'm going to turn it over
They
to
turned comments
Secretary
off.
Jason Ray for the determination of quorum.
The most transparent DNC once again have turned off all comments.
Yeah.
Welcome to New Orleans. Hopefully you've had a great time so far. I know since we last met in December, we've had some new.
So this is the party secretary, I believe, or DNC secretary, I should say.
Last meeting, if you wouldn't mind standing for a second so we can give you a proper DNC welcome.
Just gaveling in quorum, I think. Very exciting stuff here.
It was great to see so many DNC.
Yeah, maybe if you could send Grant a message, we can get him back out on the streets and we can go back and forth to that during these fluff sections, which there will be a lot of, and we knew that. Norman Solomon will be joining us in about 15 minutes to give us his take on yesterday and expectations and hopes for today, and a little bit tomorrow we'll be back on just to summarize everything that happened. I was surprised. There was a lot of attention. The Hill had a story. Ken Martin even responded to that story on Twitter about how they shot down the AIPAC resolution. And he has all these excuses about how they actually didn't. But we watched it live. We watched them do it live.
Yeah. And he's kind of trying to demonstrate, especially with the dark money resolutions, that he's sticking to his word, because Ken Martin ran when he was running for DNC chair on that basis that he was going to be a pro-transparency, pro-dark money out of politics person. And so now he really wants to drive home the idea that he's upholding that promise, but he's not.
Right. All right, Congressman Troy Carter. Should we look him up on AIPAC Tracker right now? Let's see. Let's do it.
So this is kind of the, this is the district, the New Orleans district's
Good afternoon,
Congress.
Troy Carter, $181,000 from pro-Israel lobby.
Of New Orleans.
A city where the music never stops, where the food feeds your soul, where culture shapes the world, and where the spirit of resilience.
And Sam, I didn't know Mike Johnson was from Louisiana. For some reason, I just didn't know that. I should have.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So let me begin.
He's taking $3.1 million.
Mike Johnson, yeah. Well, he's very powerful.
Yeah.
Et bienvenue chez vous. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome home. Welcome family. Welcome to New Orleans and welcome to the home of great people, great leadership, great love. Before I go any further, I want to recognize some incredible leaders who help guide our party.
You know, here's one of the difficulties. If you're going to bring in one of the representatives who takes money from the Israeli lobby, of course you're going to shoot down the resolution the day before that would have outlawed it. I mean, it just seems the party is so into itself and tied to itself that it's hard to untie it all.
Yeah. And, you know, if you picked a random Democratic representative out of a hat, odds are that they've taken a substantial amount of money from all of the industries that, you know, whose names were stricken from that dark money resolution yesterday.
Right.
And U.S. Congresswoman, the outstanding, the incomparable, the incredible, the leader that always makes things happen, Joyce Beatty. My friend, my leader, my confidant, a great asset to our country and a great asset to the United States Congress and to this great party. My dear friend and colleague who will be coming out shortly, U.S. Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Congresswoman Auntie Maxine Waters, Attorney General Letitia Tish James, Attorney General Jay Jones, my dear friend and brother, the former mayor of New Orleans, Mark Morial.
Well, while he's name dropping people, let's show this tweet or this YouTube comment. You know what would help the DNC and the Democratic Party other than dissolution? If the entire party refused to take campaign contributions from any corporations or rich and in all states, open primaries. Yeah, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Getting the party off of the drug of corporate money and breaking that addiction cycle is something they absolutely have to do.
Yeah, we heard a lot of rationale. I mean, they're sort of just shouting out the names of the heavy hitters here right now.
I would get on stage right now and just start yelling my friends' names. It would feel good. Okay. Hopefully they get into some real business here soon, though. The meeting was supposed to start 40 minutes ago at this point. They've not done anything.
And we welcome you. We appreciate you. We love you.
Well, Sam, you are in New Orleans right now. Have you been able to get some good food or anything? Has it been a nice time?
Oh, it's a great city. I mean, you know,
yeah.
I'm not loving my time in DNC sessions, but everything outside of that has been great. It's a great city, and you know, I've got to agree with the congressman here that it's a cool place to be, though probably don't agree with him on many other things. Did have the misfortune of being chatted up by some intense MAGA types at the wine bar yesterday, though. So that was a bit of a low point in my trip.
It happens. It happens.
If you want to see a party moving, you want to see somebody stepping up to the crazy stuff that's happening in Washington. And yes,
so it sounds like
state capital here.
Yeah, it sounds like go ahead, Sam.
No, I was just going to say that India Walton's been kicked out of the general session already.
Oops. They have the mic so low we couldn't hear her, but yeah. Ken Martin screamed at her.
And it's more than what we
which makes sense. They worked to destroy her campaign in Buffalo. So well, not Ken Martin. He wasn't there yet, but
you know, Ken Martin also, it's important to remember, there's lots of reporting that he's been criticized by other party members for having a particularly thin skin. This isn't me saying it. I'm just repeating what's been reported, and that this has grown to become a bit of a problem where Martin is seen as more interested in relitigating personal slights and things that he's disagreed with, rather than kind of brushing those things off and governing. And so I think that he's been particularly irked by the idea that people are protesting his DNC. I know that, I also got into a bit of a spat with his team for asking him some pretty innocuous questions last time I was at a DNC meeting. And so it's, these personalities matter in leadership. And I think that there's a lot of evidence historically that being this kind of micromanager who personalizes any sort of criticism about the party, no matter how legitimate, is not always a great recipe for success. Ken Martin, again, he's under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of heat on him from outside the party. I just saw none other than, uber centrist Matt Iglesias was tweeting this morning that he should be replaced. So there are a lot of prominent people who don't want Ken Martin to be in charge of the party anymore. A lot of it has to do with fundraising, not the things that we've criticized him for necessarily. But nevertheless, I think that every little slight against him now probably lands with a lot of force because he's nervous about preserving his position.
It is a difficult position to be in. I don't think he's doing a great job at all. I think he's doing a bad job, but it is difficult nonetheless because, he's trying to, from his point of view, he is trying to balance that fundraising. Yeah. And he feels that instead of representing the voters and pushing for resolutions and policies that reflect where the Democrat voters are right now, he's saying, what can I do to ensure our current electeds and the current status quo leadership and infrastructure remains in place so that these fundraising dollars can keep coming in? Because the biggest fear for him probably is running out of money.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's why you see these attempts to blunt these resolutions. And, they don't want to cut off, for example, the AI lobby as a potential source of funding. But, and from a purely fundraising perspective, that makes sense. But I think our stance is these are not the kinds of people the party should be taking money from. It's completely antithetical with a party that would attempt to regulate AI, which is desperately needed, to regulate crypto, to be the party that says we're not going to ship arms to Israel anymore. You cannot take money from those lobbies and also hold those positions. So it's just a perennial crossroads that the Democratic Party is at, and they have to make a choice. Otherwise, I think they're just going to become less and less appealing to more voters.
Right. You're going to lose the war vote because of Gaza. You're going to lose the environmentalist, who's one of your backbone of the party in a lot of ways. If you continue to back AI and not stand up to AI because of their huge data centers I know we have several where I live in Northeast Indiana that are destroying the wetlands here, and they build them and they say, oops, it wasn't big enough. We have to do this. Now we have to do this. And they're not creating a lot of jobs. They're taking a lot of land and destroying a lot of the environment. Yeah. So, Democrats want it. They want everything to work together, and it can't. You can't be a corporatist, pro-war environmentalist. Yeah. It doesn't exist.
And the data centers, by the way, just to, key in on an issue, that's actually a cross-cutting issue. There's a lot of polling that says that Republican swing voters are also really unhappy about data centers. Yep, they're unhappy about the sort of visual blight, the land use question. As you're saying, they don't generate nearly enough jobs to justify the expense.
That's exactly right. The land blight issue is the biggest issue for Republicans dealing with solar energy. And windmills in Northeast Indiana. Yeah. If you go across the border into Ohio, it's like driving into California. Suddenly there's 10,000 windmills as far as you can see. But as soon as you get to Indiana, they don't have it. It's because of the visual blight of solar panels. And so, that is the stuff they care about.
Yeah. And so, you can see an argument that says, well, this is a way to win voters into your column to say we oppose data center construction. But then again, you run afoul of the AI lobby and all that money evaporates. So the Democratic Party is very, very reactive to what donors want. I think people like you and I could say, well, you should lead the way electorally instead. And if you're winning races, the money will follow you. Fundraising follows you if you're winning races. But instead, it seems the party would prefer to trail people who want to, potentially donate right now.
Right. All right. Let's go back and see what he's talking about still.
If you believe working people deserve dignity, fair wages, and opportunity, say amen. If you believe democracy must be protected for the next generation, say amen. That's what this party stands for. That's what this party stands for. That's what we were built on.
It's just so
Those fundamental
frustrating.
Principles of inclusion, diversity, and equity. Doesn't have to be in that order. You, in fact, don't even call it that. Just make sure it's diverse. Just make sure we're included, and make sure there's some equity. Now, you can call it whatever you want. You can say it backwards, forward, upside down. You have to say the words at all. But include every bit of it in your words and your actions. And for our friends who left us during the time when we were not in power, our corporate friends.
We have Norman Solomon joining us now. I'm going to bring him in. Norman, can you hear us? Oh, maybe not. We'll give him a moment. Norman, can you hear us? All right. We'll pull him out and try again here in just a moment.
Our school children, our education and scholarships, fighting back environmental injustice, creating equality for all people.
Norman, there you are. Can you hear us? No, I don't think so. I see you moving, Norman. Can you hear us? All right, we'll pull him off. Okay, sorry about that.
We'll take it back when you come demonstrating that you understand the core principles of fairness, equality, opportunity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Not just for 4 years while we're in power, not just for 8 years when we're in power, not just whenever there's a different occupant in the White House, but all the time, because it's the right thing to do. Let me say something to my friends in this party, and I'll say it with love. If Democrats want to win in Louisiana and across the South, we must believe in the South, not just in speeches, not just during campaign seasons, but we need investment in Louisiana, investment in organizing, investment in local leadership, investment in year-round voter engagement, because you cannot harvest where you have not planted. Can I say that one again?
This is also a theme that it's the sort of thing that you wouldn't necessarily know from the outside, but being at these DNC meetings, there's an incredible amount of states clamoring for resources and sort of competitively trying to step over one another for more resources. So hardly a speech goes by where the person doesn't clamor for some additional funding for organizing in their state. This is very typical. We're also seeing a lot of competition right now for which city will hold the presidential nominating contest in convention, in 2028. So there's actually different states are lobbying around the DNC. You can kind of walk around and see those signs. So really interesting dynamic to see a kind of interstate competition here.
So, I mean, that just further complicates things where you're going to have the states trying to appease a DNC that's trying to appease electeds who are trying to appease donors. And there's just no mechanism through which that gets broken. Norman, do we have you now? Nope, still not yet. Norman's working on his audio, I believe.
The other thing about that is noteworthy too is that Ken Martin has made this another big piece of his tenure, that he's going to invest more in states. I mean, every Democrat will talk about the 50-state strategy, but Ken Martin says, he's going to give more resources to states. And it's actually become kind of controversial with some Central Party leaders criticizing him for spending too much time on giving resources to states where he should be investing in sort of Central Party infrastructure, not giving money to states like Louisiana, which are, never in the Democratic column in presidential electoral contests. So there's a bit of tension with that as well.
Yeah, it seems the Democratic Party has a pattern of doing that. We saw that with them moving, South Carolina to be the first primary state in the country.
Yeah.
When there's Democratic Party and candidates are going to end up spending millions of dollars there, which will ultimately be like flushing them down the toilet, because that state's never going to go blue, not as it is right now, and not with the current Democratic Party running. So why not choose a state to be first, like Georgia, that's diverse and gigantic and will go blue if you invest in it, especially early. Those are the types of state favors, and that was a favor specifically for Biden and party insiders. But yeah, it's just more issues with how they deal with things, and how it all comes down to the money being more important than the actual winning.
We supported the Saints through 100 losing seasons. But we kept showing up. And what did we say? We still believe. And we believe in this Democratic Party. We believe in this Democratic Party, even though, if I can just be, it's a family meeting, right? If I can say the party hadn't always loved us back. But we believe. So there's room for you to still love us more.
What is he saying there? The party hasn't always loved us back, but there's room that they still don't. Nothing has changed.
Go around the South, it goes through the South.
I think, again, this is what we're hearing, is that claims making, like, trying to clamor for funding for southern states. Southern states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama feel they've been abandoned by the party. I think there isn't a lot of money to go into those states because, as you're saying, it goes down the drain. They're just not winnable at the state level. The congressional districts that are winnable are very well known. They've been gerrymandered into ultra blue districts so that all the other districts can be red in the state. And I think there's a lot of hurt feelings, to put it mildly, on the part of leaders, political leaders in those states who want more investment from the national party. And they see Ken Martin, I think, as maybe a more sympathetic ear. But I think that's what that talk is about. The party didn't always love them back.
That makes a lot of sense.
Of our great city. Some enjoy the weather. But remember what New Orleans teaches the world: resilience, faith, and the power of community.
It sounds like we'll have some footage from Grant soon about the disruption that happened earlier in the meeting.
Wonderful.
We cannot be beaten if we don't quit, and we ain't no ways tired. God bless you.
We just lost the president, so we definitely can lose. We can definitely quit, but we can definitely lose without quitting if we just run on bad policy, which is exactly what happened.
Everybody.
Platitudes. We need to raise the wage, but won't tell you to what. We need universal health care, but won't tell you how. We need to end the wars, but we won't tell you who's paying to influence them.
Good afternoon, Democrats, and welcome everybody to the DNC spring meeting. Welcome to New Orleans.
We are almost an hour into this meeting. We are getting the welcome now.
Yep.
Thank you to our friends out there who have helped bring us together this week. Thank you to the city of New Orleans, to all these Louisiana Democrats, and I want them to stand up to be properly recognized. Chairman Randall Gaines and Vice Chairwoman Katie Darling and the rest of the Louisiana team there, all of the staff, their Executive Director Darius, everyone, thank you for putting this wonderful meeting on. I appreciate it. And thank you to all of you, to our DNC members, for showing up, for being fired up and understanding that this is our moment. That's right, Democrats, this is our moment. Moments like this don't come around too often. They test who we are. They test what we believe. And they force us to answer one.
What do we believe, Sam? What do we believe?
Are we going to move forward together or fall backwards? into chaos, into division and fear.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, here's a question because I don't care what he's saying right now. What percentage of these speeches are mostly written by AI? Because they just sound
it
the
might as
same.
well be.
Yeah, it's the same thing. A Barack Obama LLM that
Yeah.
they're just gonna spit out new sayings and turns of phrases.
Yeah, pretty hard to overstate the extent to which most speeches given in the Democratic Party since 2008 have been just kind of recreations of Barack Obama style speeches. Except that, you know, most people don't have his political talent, and so they don't sound very good when they deliver them.
That's right.
Uncertainty and costing lives. Energy prices have surged. Gas is now over $1 higher than before the war. And families are paying the price every time they fill up. Economic experts say relief may take months if it comes at all. And meanwhile, inflation is rising again, putting even more pressure on families who are already stretched thin. And while all of this is happening, while lives are being lost, while people are anxious about their future, what are Republicans offering? More chaos, more division, more excuses. So Donald Trump, Americans have something to say to you. We've seen enough. We have seen enough. And they've seen what you have to offer. Nothing but false promises. They've seen who you care about. No one but yourself. They've seen what you've accomplished. Absolutely nothing. Now look, this is not about left versus right. This is about right versus wrong. It's about whether we
There is no red America. There is no blue America.
Or a country where power serves itself.
Ideally, also, I think this would be about right versus left, right? Like, isn't that what the party should be doing?
That is what if they're going to try to pretend this is about a top versus bottom thing.
Everywhere
that is not
this
what
isn't
this
rhetoric.
is.
This is not rhetoric.
And try to bring Norman on again here.
It's reality.
Great. Here we go. And here's Norman Solomon joining us.
And
We'll
Emily
listen to this
Gregory
speech a little
winning
bit
in
longer.
Palm Beach and Trump's
Hi there. How you doing?
It's a reality of Chastity Martinez.
Doing well, listening to this Ken Martin speech. Let's listen to this for a couple minutes, then we'll hop in with you, Norman, okay?
Yeah.
Democrats winning or overperforming in nearly 90% of key elections since Trump was elected. It's the reality of 30 state legislative flips for Democrats and 0 flips for Republicans. Think about that. And it's the reality of what we saw just this last week in Georgia, where Sean Harris closed the gap by 25 points in what was Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. Think about that. In the reddest of
they're
blue
clapping
red
for a
areas,
race they lost
we are
here.
pushing Republicans to the brink. It's a reality in Wisconsin, the Badger State, where Chris Taylor was elected to the state Supreme Court in an absolute blowout. A historic monumental victory. Now think about this. She even won in Ripon, which is the birthplace of the Republican Party. Think about this, guys. I want you to think about this. What has happened over this last year? Democrats have won where the GOP was founded in Ripon, and we have won where it's falling apart in Mar-a-Lago. Think about that, folks. We are winning everywhere. Now, look, recently,
That's a
Mike
Chat
Johnson,
GPT
the
line.
guy
I'm
who
sorry,
knows his
Sam. That
time
just
off
has
the
to be.
speaker, was asked whether or not losing Trump's home district is a canary in the coal mine. He said no, of course. He said these special elections are anomalies. You know what I say? It's not an anomaly if it happens every week, everywhere, in every place, right? This is.
You know, the difficulty for me with a speech like this is that it's taking all this credit, but the Democrats haven't changed a thing. It's just that everybody hates Trump so much now. And it seems that he's taking credit like they've done something, but it could very easily just go back the other way once voters see that Democrats aren't serious about solving these things.
Compete up and down the ballot and organize everywhere to reinvent our political map, not only in 2026, in 2028, 30, and beyond. And that means right here in the South. And you heard Congressman Troy Carter say this best. This is the battleground of the future. In fact, it's the battleground of the moment, with Louisiana versus Calais targeting black and brown members of Congress and black and brown voters, with extremists in Louisiana trying to ban abortion, with Republicans trying to rig maps and to gerrymander districts across the South. For too long, people counted out the South. They wrote it off. They ignored it. But we know better. because we don't abandon communities. We invest in them, we organize in them, and we win in them. We are already winning in the South, and we will continue to. We are turbocharging investments, millions in resources, because we know that tomorrow's constellation of power runs through Louisiana. It runs through Texas. It runs through the Carolinas. It runs through Alabama. It runs through Florida. It runs through Georgia, Kentucky, and Mississippi, Tennessee, and Virginia, and West Virginia, and Arkansas. It is time to recover our standing, to rediscover something called hope. Called hope, folks. Now, I know we want to experience hope again. And I know we want to invite every American to join our Democratic coalition. Our party is a big tent, and the doors are open. The people are out there. The voters are hungry for real leadership and real solutions to the challenges they and their families face, which have become more challenging than ever before. They don't want to pay for bombs for a war that Trump can't even explain. They don't want to build monuments to a failed president or ballrooms for billionaires. They don't want Republican cover-ups to protect pedophiles and elites who play by a different set of rules than everybody else. They don't want masked agents sent by Trump to kick down doors without warrants. They don't want to lock up little kids and execute American citizens like they did in my home state of Minnesota, who were just standing up for their neighbors. Look. You know what? For God's sake, people in this country, they want health care. They want to be able to pay for a tank of gas to get their kids to a daycare they can afford. They want to buy a home to start a career.
So I don't forget it. I mean, some of these topics he's mentioning, you know, we're sick and tired of ICE. They just removed the abolish ICE language from the resolution yesterday.
Yeah.
They're sick and tired of this war. They just removed, or they just pushed all the Gaza, Iran, and Israel stuff to their subcommittee. That doesn't work. And now he's talking about healthcare, where the party does not support Medicare for all. I'm hard to wrap my head around the things he says versus the things the party does.
Yeah, this is pretty typical of the talking out of both sides of their mouth that they do at a lot of these conventions.
And here's what I say. We're going to keep coming after you. I said this the day I was elected, when the press asked me, what's your message to Donald Trump? I said, the gloves are off and we're coming after you. And we've been doing that all year long. Guess what? We're going to keep suing you. We're going to take your ass to court. We have the best legal team out there, and they represent the American voter, not the billionaires. This November, we have to win. We will win. We will win because this country right now depends on us. We will pick up the torch and honor the remarkable Democrats that we've lost this year. Titans like a titan of civil rights, Reverend Jesse Jackson, who we lost just a few weeks back. An extraordinary advocate and friend who we just lost in Nancy Mateo Bowen from the great state of Florida. And to all who have given their life's work to this cause, to the people, to our country, we have to honor them. But we must do everything it takes right now. We have 207 days left, 207 days until the November elections. And people ask me all the time, and I'm sure they ask you the same thing. How are you feeling about November? Every one of you get this question, I'm sure. And you know what I say? I say I'm confident, but not complacent. Never complacent. You see, I've said this before, and I hope you say it to people. We are all gas and no brakes. All gas and no brakes. We have to seize every single day given to us. Campaigns aren't won on cable news. They're not won on social media. They're won on front porches, in barbershops, in union halls, in churches, in conversations, one voter at a time. Now, DNC, we have the momentum. But guess what? With all this wind at our back, with all this positive momentum, guess what momentum doesn't do? Momentum doesn't knock on doors. Momentum doesn't register voters. Momentum doesn't organize communities. We do. Each and every one of us in this room, and a million more throughout the country who are fighting up, standing up and fighting. If we want to win, we have to earn it. If we want to protect democracy, we have to organize for it. If we want an economy that works for working people, we have to fight for it. So don't wait for someone else to do the work. I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But don't assume that someone else will make the call or knock the door or win the vote. This is on all of us, every single one of us. That means 207 days of knocking doors, 207 days of phone calls, 207 days of building coalitions, 207 days of showing up in every neighborhood and making the case for a fairer, freer, and stronger America. Just 207 days to make this all count. So let's get to work. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now, because when Democrats organize, we win. When Democrats show up, we deliver. And when Democrats lead, America moves forward. Now, I got some bad news for all of you. Some really bad news for you. Because guess what? The day after this amazing election where we win everything is the first day of the next election and our chance to finally defeat Donald Trump and put an end to Trumpism once and for all. Are you ready, Democrats? Are you ready to organize? Are you ready to fight for this country? Let's hear it, Democrats. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go out there and win, Democrats. Thank you so much. I got to stay up. Now with that.
He walked off from his speech, and then that's funny.
Throughout his life, Reverend Jesse Jackson has spoken forcefully, and he acted boldly as a trailblazing champion for justice, for equality, and for human dignity for all. As a civil rights leader and a presidential candidate in 1984 and 1988, Reverend Jackson has made so much history and opened so many doors for others. Today, we mourn his passing, and we honor his belief in the Rainbow Coalition, which he described in his 1988 speech at the Democratic National Convention. One where Americans of all races, of all creeds and backgrounds and religions are united for the common good. This organization that we all have the distinct privilege of serving on, an organization that reflects the Rainbow Coalition he inspired us to dream of, only looks the way it does today because of Reverend Jesse Jackson. May we continue our work to make this belief and his life's work a reality, and never waver in our commitment to making this a place where all are welcome. Today, we remember the legacy of Reverend Jackson and stand in awe with the Americans who were inspired by his message and saw themselves reflected in his powerful and inclusive vision for this country. Now, members, please direct your attention to the screen for a short video about the incredible work of Reverend Jesse Jackson. And after we watch this video, we will hear from remarks from people who knew the Reverend Jesse Jackson very well.
Calls on each of us to step forward and say, send me to be heralds of change, to be messengers of hope. Respect me.
I'm kind of curious what Norman thinks of this lionization of Jesse Jackson.
How fortunate we were.
I am too.
Jesse Jackson answered that call.
Do you want to watch this first, Norman, or comment on it?
Sure. Yeah, let's watch. Thanks.
The past several months, a new strategy to end racial segregation has been spreading through the South. It takes the form of sit-in demonstrations by Negro students.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson, the son of an Alabama sharecropper, was baptized in the civil rights struggle when he served as the, quote, point man, end quote, at a number of the Greensboro sit-ins.
Be admitted? No, sir, you cannot be admitted. Why? I am not going to serve you. Because of my race?
He was part of what's called the Greenville Eight, a group of young people who helped desegregate the Greenville library system.
In 1963, Reverend Jackson joined the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and quickly gained a reputation for his organizing ability, and for several years headed up the economic arm of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, known as Operation Breadbasket.
Operation Breadbasket believes that black pride stems from black economic power. Every Saturday morning, Operation Breadbasket meets in a Baptist church to hear its leader, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
I may be poor, but I am somebody.
I have some very sad news for all of you, and I think sad news for all of our fellow citizens.
God knows this is the most tragic thing that has ever happened in my life. The black people's leader, our Moses, has been taken from us by hatred and bitterness.
I remember really saying that we cannot let one bullet kill a movement. We're going on to Washington. And we did.
Just 1 week after Dr. King's murder, the Civil Rights Act of 1968 was passed and signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Jackson continued the fight for civil rights in the wake of Dr. King's assassination.
I believe that we will go from outhouse to state house to courthouse to White House. I believe we will rise all the way to the top. I rise to declare my decision to seek the nomination of the Democratic Party for the presidency of the United States of America. Because the people, they need you. Nothing's gonna stop you, Jesse.
You get out there and you give that speech, you'd see the crowd. That was the elixir. Boom. You know, all of a sudden he turned on, he was magic.
Hey, Jesse!
Jesse! The Reverend Jesse Jackson!
Jackson's surge is a mind blower.
You think that he can become president?
Yes.
You think he'd be a good president?
Yes, I'm putting all my wishes to him.
Hope wins. You must keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Jesse Jackson's presidential bid changed the political landscape forever.
He paved the road for so many others to follow.
CBS projects that Senator Barack Obama of Illinois will be the next president of the United States.
Long before there was a Barack Obama, there was a Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he was lifting up little kids all across America, believing that they too one day can become president of the United States.
Young America, hold your head high now. You must never stop dreaming. Don't stop with the way things are. Dream of things as they ought to be.
Jesse Jackson changed American politics. Jesse Jackson changed the civil rights movement.
I am somebody. I am somebody.
I hope that people will remember him as their champion, someone who gave the last full measure of his life in service.
He took the ministry from Sunday morning and he delivered it to the people.
The love for someone whose love could never be repaid.
May God bless Reverend Jackson. May he rest in eternal peace.
And you hold on and hold out. We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. On tomorrow night and beyond. Keep hope alive. I love you very much. I love you very much.
What are your thoughts, Norman, on how the party's been dealing with Jesse Jackson?
I have to say that film makes me very angry. It is so Orwellian. It is sanitizing Jesse Jackson in a similar way to how Martin Luther King Jr. has been sanitized, where King is freeze-frozen with his beautiful I Have a Dream speech, and then his anti-war eloquence and commitment, which was truly courageous, is simply skipped over. And in a very similar way, what we just saw is the National Democratic Party of 2026 sanitizing the anti-war courage of Jesse Jackson. He was always an anti-war candidate. He was always someone in 1984 and 1988 when he ran who demanded that the warfare state no longer exist in the US government. And he was vilified because he met with Palestinian leaders. And there's, as we just saw, none of that. That history is completely scrubbed in Orwellian fashion, and we can guess some of the reasons why. Here we have a DNC that just ditched and disappeared resolutions that were anti-war about how the U.S. government is supporting with billions of dollars of weapons genocide against Palestinian people. And they're not going to put in this film that Jesse Jackson courageously, going back to the 1980s, was willing to publicly meet with Palestinians to recognize their human rights. So it's a replica of what we're up against in 2026 in terms of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I thought it was especially interesting. I'd like to get your take on. They pretty much are framing Jesse Jackson as the precursor to Barack Obama. You know, that Jesse walked so Obama could run, but Obama didn't run. And although Jesse Jackson supported Obama, of course, their politics are not the same.
Yeah, very true. And another aspect that is really left out of this kind of a rendition is that Jesse Jackson was vilified at the 84 and 88 conventions. The first Democratic National Convention I went to was 1988 in Atlanta, and the contempt with which Jesse Jackson was met, and that was a much stronger presidential campaign. As I remember, he had 1/3 of the delegates to the 88 convention. And the media coverage was derisive. There were pundits on the major networks saying that he was trying to, quote, hijack a plane because he asked for the DNC to provide him with an airplane for the general election campaign against George Herbert Walker Bush in 1988. And there was an infamous statement from the nominee of the Democratic Party in 88, Michael Dukakis, who said publicly, look, there can only be one quarterback. Well, this was a time when there were no black quarterbacks in the NFL. And it was a very clear message, stay in your place. He did everything but say boy to Jesse Jackson. So this is the kind of revisionist history that we're up against, where the same party that in 88 was so hostile from the establishment to Jesse Jackson, now he's a hero.
And hostile in all the same ways that they are hostile to progressives today.
Absolutely.
They've simply just assumed his legacy belongs to them. And you heard his son push back on that a couple weeks ago. Let's hop back in here.
That proved this movement was more than a moment. It was a mandate that said, bring everybody in, leave nobody out.
I think this is still on Jesse Jackson.
Who had felt unseen. Don't worry, I see all of y'all. Don't be afraid of the darkness. You're in Louisiana. We play in the darkness. The things we do in the darkness, we don't often bring to light. But let me tell you, that's the reason why we believe in the Holy Ghost. So just y'all hang in there. We made the Democratic Party more reflective of America. Look at the dice. Look at this dice. Look at this dice. And that young man, he stood on the shoulders of Paul Wellstone, who was with us.
Now, am I right? Is this Donna Brazil?
Yeah, this is Donna Brazil.
Yeah. And to her right, that might be James Zogby.
And so let's be clear.
Which would be appropriate
since
Jim Zogby was a deputy campaign manager for Jesse Jackson.
Yep.
I think that was the 84 or 88 campaign.
We were willing to knock on doors.
So the ironies abound.
Yeah.
Donna Brazil, epitome of the Democratic Party establishment.
Yep.
And against the rules, tilted for Hillary Clinton when she was at the DNC herself, de facto running the place.
It is our responsibility.
Shafted Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
Today is not just what we did from 1984 to 1988.
I mean, it's just the irony of celebrating one of these great progressives with all the people who have pushed back against progressives and continue to, not Zogby necessarily, but Ken Martin and Donna Brazil are clearly the epitome of the party pushing back against its progressive base. And to use them to honor him, it just feels like theft.
Is clear. Can the
By the
tools
way,
we obtain
speaking of
the
challenge
landscape
to the
may have
Democratic
faded,
Party
but our mission,
war corporate
you know
establishment,
this, remain
I'm
the
looking
same.
forward to hearing
We're going to
from
continue to build a
the
coalition
Roots
as
Action
wide as the American sky.
coordinator
And
of
we're going to
strategy,
stand
senior
on
strategist,
justice as
India
firm
Walton, who
as the
I understand
American
has had a bit
foundation.
of an encounter with
Let
the
us never
party
forget.
establishment at this
Chairman
gathering this
constantly
afternoon.
reminds us that when we organize.
Yeah, we have India joining us on the call now. India, are you there now? Let's see. She is here. She's here now. India, could you turn your camera on and I can pull you onto stage?
More voices are heard, and more.
There you are. Let's give this a quick pause as the Democrats pretend that they were on the same side as Jesse Jackson. And let's bring in Buffalo's own India Walton and our wonderful colleague. India, I heard you had a bit of a run-in a little bit ago.
It was a run out. They ran me right up out of there. Being in some rooms with these people and hearing rumblings about what people want to see from the party but are unwilling to ask, and knowing that I would not have an opportunity to get close enough to Chairman Martin to ask him myself, I decided that when the room was quiet enough, I would ask him, where's the autopsy report? And, remind them that the Democratic Party is my party too. They may not agree with all of my politics, which they should, which is essentially don't drop bombs on babies, don't take money from foreign influences. And they very quickly removed me from the room, but not before my message got out.
Good. Physically removed you?
Physically removed me.
Yikes.
You were irritating them, to put it mildly.
I was irritating them, and I was also with two other folks from No Ship, a local organizing group, who also had some things to say. So all three of us were ejected.
I'm going to place a bet that in 35 or 40 years, if there still is civilization in the United States, there might be a little film clip of you, just as we just saw Jesse Jackson. Look at what this wonderful Democrat did way back in 2026.
It's interesting that, they had signs that said, I am somebody. The prayer called for unity, and right when we're talking about creating this big tent party, and anytime someone disagrees, they were trying to overshout me, and they don't want to hear anything that's not lock in step with the status quo. And it's a real shame.
Yeah, it is, because if they'd had a more straightforward resolution process and hadn't simply ditched and set aside and sidetracked so much, then there would be a process to. There's been virtually no debate in the last 2 days since the gavel first fell here.
I think our big D Democrats have a real issue with small d democracy. They just don't get it.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go to Jim Zogby.
Yeah, see, there's an irony again. Jim Zogby has been a great fighter for Palestinian rights for 40 plus years. And as I mentioned, was a deputy campaign manager for president for Jesse Jackson in the 80s. And Jim Zogby is now the coordinator of, the convener of a so-called working group on the Middle East, which is basically a stalling mechanism to prevent the party from saying anything meaningful about the genocide in Gaza.
First time it was raised as an issue, I'd say it was the last time too, but it was nevertheless an important breakthrough. But to be honest with you, the courage he showed when he walked into a room full of ministers and talked to them about gay rights. This is back in the 80s. And they were unrelenting, and he was unrelenting back, and he moved mountains with them. because he made them understand the humanity of people and the message of Jesus Christ was at stake. That's courage. He built a rainbow coalition of the rejected, and he made us, as Donna said, into a movement. I'll never forget the 84 speech. If you've not listened to the 84 speech, you listen to that speech. 88 gets talked about. 84, when he said, God is not finished with me yet. Do not give up on me. And I believe that that's true of our movement. God's not done with us yet, with each and every one of us. And I just have one final thing I want to say. Back when I had the honor in 84 to do one of the nominating speeches, I got to speak that night after it. And I said, tonight, the son of an illegal immigrant got to nominate for president the great-grandson of a slave. Where else but America? Because my father had come undocumented.
Their volume is so low, it's tough to hear.
Yeah.
And so let me conclude with what I told the young Dems this morning. I wish for all of you what Donna and I had, the opportunity to work for and with somebody and to learn from somebody who was a transformative figure in American life and taught us almost every day by what he did and how he lived. And I thank you, and I wish that for all of you. Best wishes.
I have a couple questions for Sam in India. You see the milieu there. It's a very conformist atmosphere in a way. And I wonder if you see that as a trend line from previous Democratic Party. Is it a continuity? Is it worse or better? Is there more openness, do you think?
I'm not sure what India thinks about that, but I'll say, Norman, I was saying to Ryan before you got on that I think the sort of anxiety that Ken Martin feels about the shakiness of his leadership right now is really palpable in that way, and that it seems like there's urgency around shutting down dissent. There's a lot of anxiety about sort of projecting this idea of a united front. And I think that has to do with Chair Martin, where he feels he doesn't have a very tight grip on his leadership position right now. And I think also has to do with the party being paralyzed by not wanting to make mistakes, not wanting to err going into the midterms and somehow lose seats that they could have won. But of course that, we know that creates a very conservative stance for them. And it means they don't want to take any risks. They don't want to put forward, progressive policy because they're worried that will somehow damage the brand of the party. So instead, it feels like it's kind of the party's a little bit paralyzed through the midterms, at least. And I doubt much will change then, but it definitely seems like there's a lot of anxiety about keeping the lid on right now and making sure that the party seems to be functioning.
Yeah, I know I've been a delegate at some Democratic national conventions, and that's really explicit, where the training of delegates is you are an extra in a movie, and remember what your role is.
Yep.
And don't breach any of the prescribed behavior. And what you're saying about the midterms, it really reminds me of the letter that was sent from Progressive Caucus members, several dozen, about the need for diplomacy right after the Ukraine war began. And this was before the 2022 midterms. And when the letter went out, there was a huge freak out because ostensibly it was going to hurt the Democrats in the midterm. And it was immediately by Pramila Jayapal withdrawn with great drama. We didn't mean to send this letter. And ironically, as I remember, upwards of 55% of the public, according to polling, wanted to do what the letter called for. But it was that fear that, oh no, we're doing something bad, it's going to hurt the midterms. And of course, that causes great caution and conformity.
Absolutely. And I think you saw that play out during the resolutions committee yesterday as well, where it's just unthinkable for most of the members of the DNC that you would try to push through these controversial resolutions. So many of the votes on that committee were just unanimous aye votes. There was almost no discussion. What discussion there was just sort of backslapping for everyone to congratulate each other on what a great job they did. And when we came to actually controversial resolutions, you could see that there were speakers opposed already lined up, to try to shut down those resolutions as quickly as possible. So it's very much part of the MO here.
Stand up for equality.
Yeah, one of the huge troubling aspects to me is what the chair says goes. I mean, we see that in the California Democratic Party. It's true of many, not all state parties. But the DNC, at least outwardly, whatever behind the scenes is going on, I mean, who is publicly challenging any of the decisions that have been made by Ken Martin? I'm not aware of any public debate about anything he's done. Have I missed anything?
There's been absolutely no public debate. I mean, certainly not public debate, but even debate here. I mean, they're doing such a strict Robert's Rules of Order where even the opposition voices would have 30 seconds or 60 seconds max to say anything. And usually they'd be organized against with other people giving the more establishment take. Really, there's no back and forth. It's just like, say your piece and we're done, which is not what a debate is. So no actual conversation, no dialogue on any of the issues.
Maxine Waters.
Well, you give them credit for efficiency. In 2 hours at the very beginning of this meeting, semi-annual meeting, dispensed with 30 plus resolutions and gave speakers 1 minute to address them. So that keeps the train running.
And so much of the rest of this meeting, this convening, has just been really cheerleading, people sort of commending each other for what a great job they're doing. It leaves aside, so much room that they could have used for real political debate to really talk about the party's internal politics right now. But as you say, Norman, that was dispensed with in the first 2 hours of the convening here, and it's just been sort of cheerleading since then.
A lot of the folks who are delegates, maybe the nature of being a political delegate is they want to run for office or they want to rise in the ranks. And you generally don't do that if you're tagged as an insurgent. That's a really tough row to hoe. It's notable that, and I heard you both talking, I think, very cogently about the pressure to raise money. And Ken Martin's gotten a lot of bad press because of not raising as much money as others hope. It is, though, an avenue. Sure, he might alienate some of the multi-millionaire, billionaire donors, but Bernie Sanders raised a lot of money quite well, thank you, at average of $27, but that's absolutely not a route they want to take. Or they're capable of taking, because you have to inspire people.
Right. Well, I mean, I think the need for money is based on the lack of support for your ideas. Obviously, you could have the most popular ideas in the world. You still have to have money to get the message out to know people, to let people know to vote for you. But you could probably do quite a bit more if you just take on popular policies with less money. For instance, Kamala Harris, didn't she waste $1 billion in like
1.5 billion apparently.
1.5 in 60 days or something.
107.
You know, 107 days, 1.5 billion dollars. There's almost nothing to show for that at all. It was a disaster of a campaign, using the money in all the wrong ways, trying to bring in young people by hiring influencers and rappers, and nobody cares about that when healthcare is on the line. They don't care.
I have a question for you, India. But Jon Stewart hosted Ken Martin maybe 6 months ago, and then afterwards was talking about, Jon Stewart was saying, I couldn't quite follow what he was trying to say, and I couldn't either, listening, because it was so convoluted on one hand, other hand, and this and that. And then I noticed something which later I read a comment assessing other appearances that Ken Martin was doing in those sort of edgy shows and YouTube shows. It was as though there was a memo to cuss a lot because he was using 4-letter words with Jon Stewart. And it wasn't hard to see that Ken Martin thought he would gain rapport with younger voters if he used 4-letter words.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like,
that's a strategy for you. But
it's insulting.
India, I was
It's
wondering
not a
how you
strategy.
would describe the atmosphere that you've encountered in the official proceedings and then out on the picket line and people who've been organizing outside the meeting.
The people who are organizing outside of the meeting are young people who are educated about the issues, who know what they want, and what is happening inside is the same thing that we saw in Chicago in 2024. It's a bunch of backslapping and photo taking and fanfare. I mean, there's a competition right now among cities inside this meeting to determine who's going to host the national convention in 2028. I mean, it's very unserious. In my opinion, I think that they're using procedure in order to avoid tackling the issues that are really front and center for voters in the electorate, and putting lipstick on a proverbial pig, if I could liken it to that. What do you think, Sam?
I think that's right. Yeah, I was saying some of, sort of talking also about the competition to host the convention before you joined. And I think it's pretty representative of what's actually happening at these meetings, which is just sort of a lot of, greasing the wheels of a machine that's already in motion that no one has any interest in turning in a different direction. I want to say that one of our activists just reached out on one of the threads we have going here and said that they think that what's happening here during this meeting is that they're stalling for time, basically, and they're trying to run out the clock on this meeting before they get to the resolution committee report, during which there actually would be an opportunity to make amendations to that committee report. And that's something that the DNC leadership doesn't want to get to, because it would give some of the activists there another opportunity to talk about those resolutions that were controversial yesterday morning. So this is really an attempt to just kind of run the clock and cheerlead until time expires here, which is pretty soon. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I saw the official report from the Resolutions Committee, and it was stunning. It made me think of how people are disappeared. There were resolutions that disappeared. Like you go down the numbers and it goes from 13 to 16. Like there's no 14 and 15 in the top. And then at the bottom, it says in italics that 14 and 15, which had to do with Gaza, with bombing Iran, support for other bombing in the Middle East of other countries. And it said this was put out for review. So it's been all avowedly sidetracked. So they've disappeared any discourse around that, they hope. And it's going to be interesting to see whether when they have, essentially a consent calendar to approve them all at once, but we'll see.
Norman, I had one question for you about two of those resolutions, specifically regime change in Venezuela. Or they didn't use the words regime change, but the resolutions on Venezuela and Cuba, which called on a support for a transition to democracy in those kind of support to a transition to capitalism is what they mean. But support to a transition to democracy, which appears to be giving Democrats carte blanche support to call for regime change wars, to essentially go in any direction they want on Venezuela and Cuba. Did you have a different reading of those, or did it seem kind of pro-war and weird?
Well, my impression is it's somewhat similar to how not wanting to even address Iran, but in this meeting, but how Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and others in leadership in the House and Senate for Democrats are trying to thread that needle where we don't like how Trump's doing it, but don't get us wrong, we don't like, and then fill in the blank, Iran and so forth. So it leaves that door open for, hey, we don't like how it's being done, but we're not saying that nothing like this should be done.
Right. It's all style and procedure.
Yeah.
We'll come back to the meeting.
Sunlight for everyone under his sun. He wanted to make sure that we could be better than ourselves. What's going to happen with the Republican Party?
So is this just going to be a bunch of speeches about nothing until they're supposed to do reports?
It's incredible. And I mean, for as procedural as they are, the schedule said 2:45. It didn't start until well after 3 o'clock, almost 3:15. They didn't even begin on time. And now there's just like this speech after speech where this is a business meeting, right? Like where's the business going to happen? When is the business going to happen?
That's right. No business is happening. No organizing is happening. But a bunch of people that they owe favors to or something are getting spots on the stage to speak and accomplish nothing. I'm not sure I totally understand this. Other than that, it's classic Democrats putting on an event that doesn't really accomplish anything.
I'm guessing this is on C-SPAN, and certainly they're looking for good sound bites.
That's right. This is for their social media.
Get 4 American flags, but definitely it's a messaging for the public that they're not the old Democrats who in many ways didn't exist, but they were always attacked for not being sufficiently patriotic or militaristic.
You know, and before you hopped on, Norman, me and Sam talked about that at the top of the call, was how pro-America this event was. They did the Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem, an invocation, 4 American flags, the bright lighting and all this. It's all to make this point that, no, we're the patriots. We're the real Americans. It's straight out of the Republican playbook. We're not that old those old soft, progressive, environmentalist tree hugger. That's not us anymore.
Oh, we got to hear Auntie
We never
Maxine.
were them. We never were them.
Here's Maxine, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Ryan, but we got to hear Auntie Maxine.
This feels like a real
Got that wig on straight
DNC
today.
meeting we're having here today. I want to thank you for the time that you are giving for Jesse Jackson here at this particular meeting. It is so important that we honor those who have made sacrifices such as Jesse Jackson has made. He was one of the greatest civil rights leaders that ever walked this earth. He was a great human rights leader, and I want you to know that he was a great father. I want you to know he was a great husband. I want you to know that his children that you are seeing, many for the first time, you see the spirit of Jesse Jackson in them. Give him a big round of applause. I am so pleased to be here in New Orleans, but it brings back a lot of memories. I have so many stories I could tell you about Jesse Jackson, but I'll quickly tell you 1 or 2. The first one is about New Orleans, as y'all call it. It is about New Orleans, what happened with Katrina. I want you to know that Jesse Jackson and I talked on the telephone when it happened and when people didn't know where to go, where they were all crowded into that auditorium down there. And so he said, let's go. I left Los Angeles. We didn't know where we were going to sleep. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we came to New Orleans. And we ended up with Cleo Fields. You know who Cleo Fields is? Cleo Fields, now congressman. He got a bus. We took the bus to the Louis Armstrong International Airport, where they had dropped people who they had taken off of roofs and didn't know where to take them. There were people there without their medicine. There were diabetics. Jesse Jackson and Cleo Fields and Maxine Waters picked up people from the Louis Armstrong Airport, and we started down wherever we could go to find places we could put them, where we could put them in homes, where we could put them in apartments, wherever we could put them. And I want you to know
These are people I look up to. It's incredibly disappointing.
But Jesse Jackson was picking up people himself in his arms off the sidewalk. He was getting babies. He was even going up to help people who were still on the roofs. You don't know Jesse Jackson like I knew Jesse Jackson. I traveled with him.
It sort of reminds me of the Bruce Springsteen song Glory Days. You know, Maxine Waters was such a great legislator in the California Assembly, and in her early years in Congress, she was so great. But I would emphasize was,
and guess what?
you know,
He slept in public housing projects all night with young people who thought they were gangsters.
Do you think
They
it's
just
the,
thought they were bad until Jesse
no
Jackson
no
came
matter
along.
what, over time you're going to get closer to power? Do you think that's what it is? Just the closeness, it makes it more difficult to be bold?
I guess it's more difficult, but doesn't have to be. You know, sometimes it isn't. I mean, there's corruption issues with her and her husband. There's banking power that she's wielded, and she used to be a firebrand anti-war person. But under Obama, that pretty much stopped.
I was on the road for 6 weeks and didn't go home while we traveled all over this country. He paid a great price and he sacrificed. And so we owe it to him, not simply to come and say amen, not simply to say that's right, or when he's talked about, but that spirit has to live within us. It is that spirit that makes us good Democrats, because he cared about everything and everybody, and he knew that this is the party. This is the party that will help us to overcome whatever we have to overcome. Trump don't know who in the hell he's messing with. The Democratic Party will never stop fighting.
I guess there's that strategy again.
We will win. When we fight, we will win. When we fight, we will win. We have the Jesse Jackson spirit. And a lot of people don't know why I act the way I act sometimes when I take them on. When I say reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time, that's the Jesse Jackson spirit in me. That is what I learned about him. The confidence. When you hear me say, I got the gavel and I know how to use it, that's because Jesse Jackson taught me to have confidence, to be strong, to do what I really thought, don't hide from anybody, and never be intimidated by Trump or anybody. Oh, I wish he was here today.
I have the spirit of Jesse Jackson.
Because not only would he see those who believed in him and those who had that spirit that we all need and we all got to have in order to know what we must do. Jesse Jackson did not believe that any child should be hungry in this country. And he talked about the fact that children were going to bed at night hungry, not able to have dinner or have a meal. He talked about people even then living on the streets, the homeless, and he went above and around and with the homeless to help them and to talk with them and to give them hope and to give them the spirit that life was going to be better. And so here we are. Here we are at the Democratic Conference, the DNC, where we all are fighting for this country. We're fighting to make sure that this country lives up to its ideals. We're fighting to make sure, no matter how bad it gets with the wrong leader, you know, some mistakes can be made. And a big mistake was made when this Trump was elected to be the president of the United States of America. But we're going to do that. We're going to take care of that. We're going to take that because we're going to take the Jesse Jackson spirit and we're going to take it to the streets. We're going to knock on doors. We're going to get on telephone banks. We're going to raise money. We're going to register people to vote. Now, they think that they're going to take away the right for every person to vote who want to vote in this country. They believe that somehow the SAVE Act that he's put up is going to stop us from registering to vote. He don't know who in the hell we are. He is not going to take away from us the right to vote and federalize voting. He wants to know the name of every person who is eligible to vote. He and Elon both can go straight to hell because we are not going to allow that to happen. We're not going to allow that to happen. You think that we're going to give up our voting rights? You can try anything you want. You can say anything you want. You can do whatever you want, but you will never take away the voting rights that so many died and sacrificed for. And so we got work to do. And I want everybody to know everybody can do something. Now, me, I love to go into protest. I've been on the streets with Indivisible. I've been on the streets with No King's Day. I've been in about 11 or 12 protest actions in the last few months. I was out in front of the Board of Education in 19-degree weather, calling out the so-called new person he had appointed to be in charge of our education, who want to take away public education. Now, I want you to know we have to be careful because we know a lot, and sometimes we don't know as much as we should know, and we don't always know how to handle it. We have a lot of talk about young people and old people. I'm 79 years old, 87 years old, wish I was 79. 87 years old, wish I was 79. But guess what? I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to stay in this fight. I'm going to run for re-election. I'm going to make sure that we respect each other, that we have coalitions. Everybody's got a right to try. Everybody's got a right to try to run for office, young, old. I don't care how old you are, how young you are. But for old folks like me, hell, we vote. And we're going to keep on voting. We work hard. We're going to keep on working hard. And I want you to take your medicine and whatever you got to do. I want you to go to the doctor on time. I want to make sure you're in good health. I want to make sure you hit the streets. I want to make sure you're in the campaign. I want to make sure you're making telephone calls. And don't think you're just going to win it on the social media. Yes, I want you to do everything that you can. I want you to make sure that you're on the social media and you're talking, you're criticizing, you're advising, you do all of that, but that's not going to win it alone. Do all of that, but get on the streets, get in the neighborhoods, get in the churches, get with your social organizations. Can we win it? Can we fight? If we fight, can we win? Are you dedicated to the fight? Are you willing to fight? Can you keep up with 87-year-old Maxine Waters?
Can we talk about nuance for a moment?
Please.
I will always have love and respect for Maxine Waters. But at a certain point, it's time to build the bench, have a succession plan, build up some people underneath you, and step aside.
Really?
It's just, I don't even know what the feeling is that I have when I hear people talk about, protest is good. We want all voices. We want youth voices. And then to be in that exact same room just an hour ago and be shut down and escorted out. Right. Yeah. So like the message is completely contradictory to the actions. Which one is it? Do you want more people in? Do you want more voices in? Do you want challenges? Do you want debate? Do you want discourse? Do you want small d democracy, or do you not? Because my voice certainly was not welcome in that room, and nor were many others. Even in the resolutions committee, a lot of young people were just sort of shut down if they weren't saying the things that people wanted to hear. So I would love for the actions of the party to actually match up with the words. And someone said to me earlier, like, why do you keep showing up to these things, right? You've been rejected. They don't want you here. Well, okay, I'm from Buffalo. And so that means that I was born a football fan. And when you have an opposing team, like, you don't watch the film because you want to be on the team. You watch the film because you want to know how to strategize. You watch back what they do so that you know how to not only respond, but to plan to mount up an offense. And I think that that's what a lot of people are looking for these days. They're looking for an alternative option. But if we don't know the rules inside the Democratic Party, inside the establishment, then we don't know who we're playing against.
And looking for substance. And I wanted to ask you, Indy, about what you were saying when it was just too unacceptable for the people who could have you removed. I mean, you were talking about content, as I understand it. And what blows my mind at Democratic Party meetings is the lack of interest in content, actual policies, let's talk about them. So how would you describe what you were conveying before they gave you the hook?
I reminded Ken Martin that he promised us transparency, that we wanted to see the autopsy report, and that this is my party too. This is not the Democratic Party is not only the party of the people who are on the other end of the rope, right? They had the room separated off for members and then everyone else. The party doesn't belong to them and them alone. The party actually belongs to the voters. And if I have something to say, or if I have a concern or whatever it is, then that deserves to be heard too. And also I said, stop dropping bombs on babies.
Yeah, dropping bombs on babies. And they're really connected because, as we have been made to understand through reporting, the autopsy included very clear findings that if the presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, had said, we want to stop dropping bombs on babies, she would have gotten a lot more votes. She well might have become president.
It seems like such
somehow
an easy thing to do,
whole
Norman.
point is just shunted aside, and it blows my mind that the Democratic Party would sink at least hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into interviewing people in all 50 states and analyzing data, and then tell us, well, we know what it all means, but we're not going to tell you.
Let's pray for their strength.
Yeah.
And let's pray for their safe.
You know, and
Do we know
also,
who-
it's
Oh, go ahead,
worth
Sam.
mentioning that we heard Maxine Waters talk about being in her late 80s and then go on to big cheers to say that she's going to run again for office. You know, all respect to her, but this is the kind of problem that is just endemic in the party right now. India just talked about the divide between young people protesting outside and older people inside, you know, at the head of the party. And I just don't think that this is a party that should condone people who are in their late 80s running for re-election.
Absolutely. You know, we talk about 4-letter words. This is a 3-letter word, ego. You know, it can be tremendously damaging. Look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg just would not leave the Supreme Court. So we got another right-winger in. I mean, that was just an example. And again, it's not an ageist thing, but, you know, we look at Chuck Schumer, and yet also we look at Bernie Sanders. You know, Bernie Sanders is not pushing old ideas. And that's a lot of it, is it's the confluence of old people in power pushing old ideas.
And one of the manipulation tactics is to get young people to push old ideas. And so when you do have young people, oftentimes it's people who aren't great. You had the guy saying we can't, India, I asked you about this yesterday. We had the guy saying you can't ban APAC money because too many young black candidates need that money. And so they turned it around into this, it was just like bizarro issues that they do, where the young people with young, new, energetic ideas, they're the ones outside that they don't let in. Do we know who this woman is speaking?
That is the New York State Attorney General, Tish James.
Oh, okay.
To our soul and the blows to our spirit. We've got to be courageous and undaunted and unbowed and unwavering. We must stand up, and we must stand together, and we must fight back. Fight back.
She was actually the first person ever to win solely on the Working Families Party line.
Oh.
And of the last decade, since he came down from that golden elevator.
So that's an interesting dynamic then here, though. If she didn't run as a Democrat, but she's here, is that just because of how New York politics is, then she had to do that, or?
Well, it's a long story, but it was back when she first ran. She's been in office for a while now, and she's very well liked.
Okay.
You know, people actually wanted to like tap her to run for governor, but you know, she like, I wouldn't call her a party stalwart, but you know, she did cape for Kathy Hochul, who's not the greatest governor, but whatever.
Sure.
We're not here for that.
Challenging the fog of misinformation and disinformation, the distortion of facts and the deep
And after this session, there is a tomorrow goodbye set of meetings like executive committee, and that's it.
That's
Let
my
me pull-
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, so tomorrow's schedule is very light. There'll be training going on, DNC training. No idea what that is, but it's only for DNC members. We won't be allowed to see that. There is an executive committee meeting tomorrow, 11 to 1. We might be able to catch a little bit of that. And then it's regional caucuses, and then a couple more ethnic council, poverty council, interfaith council, youth council. So there are meetings on Saturday, but the big stuff I think ends today. But the executive committee meeting is tomorrow. Previous executive committee meetings have been big nothing burgers, though. So
yeah, like the one that Sam you covered in Little Rock. Is that meeting also open? I'm guessing it's open, executive committee.
Yeah, I don't see any asterisks which would say it's not. I believe the executive committee meeting should be streamed as well. Although what I can do is I can just check the Democrats' YouTube page because they've already set out all their live stream times. So let me hop in here right now.
Well, looking ahead, I know that various cities want to get the convention for 2028. I think politically, much more important is the sequence of presidential primaries and what states get in when. And I imagine that's quite a jigsaw puzzle to figure out. What I read is that there are committees or committee that winnows it out, but reportedly it's up to Ken Martin finally.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the committees have had any actual real power. And yes, they will be live tomorrow at noon Eastern, 11 Central with the executive committee meeting. Sam, maybe you can sit in on a little bit of that for me before you hit the airport.
Yep, definitely.
Great. Or just go get kicked out because you have to leave anyways. It's fine.
I'll yell at Ken Martin again.
We saw how pivotal the sequencing of presidential primary states was in 2020. And we'll see. And especially 2024, in a preemptive way. And so it's going to be fascinating to see how all that shifts out.
We were talking about this earlier. Does it seem like South Carolina stays? Is it going to shuffle all the time now? I'm really confused about how permanent the changes that have been made the last couple years affect now. And are there people campaigning, like, for instance, Georgia, which makes the most sense as your first state?
Yeah.
Are there people campaigning to make that happen?
Yeah, I think so. And the fact that James Clyburn is running for re-election is not a good sign.
No, because Biden owes him a favor now, and Biden can still probably be a bit of a kingmaker in the party. So
yeah, Biden and Obama both, I think. And actually, the argument for South Carolina was it was diverse, but the reality is that Georgia is more diverse. But Georgia obviously is not a state that would be preferred by the corporate Democrats. They would much rather have South Carolina.
Georgia's also a state that Democrats have won in presidential elections in the recent past, whereas South Carolina is completely unwinnable at this juncture. So you have to wonder why they would prefer a state that is irrelevant in the general election. It could only be because they feel like they have a better handle on how its primary process will go.
When if they can funnel the most money to the candidate they want, then that's the candidate that will be able to afford to throw away $10 million in South Carolina to win early on, where a candidate with less money isn't going to strategically want to waste $1 million. If they only have $1 million, they're not going to want to spend it in a state where it's just like lighting it on fire.
I think corporate Democrats don't like New Hampshire because it's a wild card.
Total wild card, yeah.
Bernie's done well there. It's very retail. The voters actually meet people. Except for the terribly cold weather, I loved it because there were real interactions between candidates and voters.
Well, it's a small enough state they can do the whole state in a day, and stay there for a week and just go and go and go. even Georgia, South Carolina is probably still too big to do that, but yeah, Georgia's be real rough too.
Brotherhood and all of those who
So anything else to share about the mood that you could pick up? I mean, you've got 400 plus DNC delegates there. I know they're going from one meeting to another. Sam, Nindy, did you sense any sort of disquiet, dissent, grumbling, anything like that?
There was quite a bit of grumbling and quiet dissent, but unfortunately, no one said it out loud. And I think that knowing that a lot of these positions are appointed and just, having conversations. I went to a networking event with young Democrats where most people were over 40, but anyway, and people were talking about, you go and you become a young Democrat, you begin attending these meetings, and it's a career path for people, right?
Yeah.
Like people who enter into politics or into the Democratic Party who want change, who want to serve people are like in the minority still. So there are, handfuls of people who want to see change occur, but the vast majority of people see this as a career path. And I think that that's the reason why it's so difficult to really move the needle inside the party.
Speaking to that personally, India's early on in my career, I got into Democratic politics and it became a career path. It was just like, oh, I'll just work for these campaigns. Then I quit that because I was like, I don't like any of them and they're all frauds and they're running for wrong things. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's only when Roots Action was hiring that I went from working for a marketing company back into politics, because finally there was an organization I could work for that was actually on the same team as I was politically, versus just working for these Democrats who it's just all money games for the most part, especially electorally. Even non-electorally, it's a lot of just money and fundraising emails and all of this.
Yeah, you can really see that tension here, and all the way down to the folks who really ardently pursued us across the hotel yesterday to make sure that they knew exactly who we were with. And there's a very strong careerist atmosphere here. And that's really in contrast with a lot of the really, I think, and India, I'm sure you feel this way too, inspiring activists within the party that we've been talking to here who are at great personal cost pushing these resolutions that their state parties don't want them to push, the national party doesn't want them to push, but they have moral conviction, and that's why they're working on these things. And you really, to see the dissonance between that kind of attitude and outlook versus these much more career-oriented politics as vocation people is kind of striking sometimes. I mean, it's just, it really feels like two groups of people that don't have a lot in common, but are in the same party together. And the job of the professionalized group is really to keep the lid on. And it just feels like so much of the drive here is to keep the lid on, make sure that dissent is quashed quickly. So it seems that the party is moving as one, that there's everyone is in control. But I think that there is a lot of dissent within the party. And we talked to a lot of people who are unhappy with directions the party is taking.
Speaking on that same line, Sam, it seems when we talk about this careerist nature, it's clearly a careerism, but it doesn't feel, maybe you can correct me, it doesn't feel cutthroat. It doesn't feel like there's anybody just waiting for Ken Martin to mess up so they can, and then, seize power. There's none of that. It seems like they're all working together to do a bad job. And there's not someone waiting in the wings, just waiting for, like, it's careerism without like opportunism towards the top. I don't know. I'm trying to explain. Does that make sense?
I think that's how it appears. And I think that if you value your career, it's really important that you act that way. But I think there are many folks who are waiting in the wings for Ken Martin's job. I think we saw some of them speak on stage today. And I think it's just about, people waiting for their opportunity. And we'll see. I think if Ken Martin's reputation is more tarnished, I think there are going to start to be some real questions about how well he can do. If the primaries don't go particularly well, I think they will. I think the Democrats will do well. If they don't, though, I think that he's going to be in real trouble. And then we'll see who's been waiting in the wings.
Right. And unfortunately, if the party does well, we'll all be in trouble because although the Democratic Party will take power from Trump, which is good, the party won't change, which ultimately will just get Trump 3.0, whoever, JD Vance, Peter Thiel, whoever's going to be our next post-Democrat, leader, post-Trump.
They'll be vindicated. They'll feel in their approach to these things.
That's right. And we'll all know they won because Trump is despicable, not because they offer anything.
So in terms of the inside-outside strategy, which I think is really essential, my sense is that the inside part, which unfortunately, in terms of introducing resolutions, requires being a delegate, there seem to be, I don't know, is it a dozen at most, but quite a few, half a dozen who are delegates who have worked really hard to raise issues of AIPAC and Gaza and Iran and aid to Israel. Is that about what the number is?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a dozen is right. And more who agree with them who they're trying to move to say so publicly. I mean, that's the other thing that's sort of disheartening to see in these meetings is that there were a lot of people who I think these activists thought were lined up behind them who didn't vote the right way during the resolutions committee yesterday, or others who privately have agreed, but not publicly yet.
I think you saw a big voice there and a noticeable one with the leader of the Young Democrats, who is vehemently trying to get them to pass the resolution on Gaza, and they turned down, and on the dark money AIPAC stuff, and on abolish ICE. You saw these young Democrats specifically doing their best, and you could see the frustration and hear the frustration in their voices to not be able to accomplish the thing that seems like it should be easy to accomplish.
And flipping 13 legislative seats to give us a trifecta.
Well, it's an education about how the party works.
We're competing everywhere.
Right. And so this is one of the vice chairs here.
Any single voter. We're not conceding any community because we're not conceding our future.
I'm not sure who that is.
No, I don't know who this is. Yeah.
Winning races up and down the ballot, overperforming expectations even in the South, and proving that when we show up to do the work, Democrats win. That is not luck. That is discipline.
Although it's a standard technique, I think it's still really fascinating how smoothly this task force working group was utilized to quash the Israel-related resolutions. And, a backhanded compliment, but you got to hand it to Ken Martin. He really has pulled this off. When you think of how in Minneapolis last August, there was very big mass media coverage of what Allison was doing, Allison Minnerly, and the resolution and so forth. And they really have, although there's some coverage of AIPAC resolution or AIPAC being pulled out of the resolution and so forth, some coverage of that, but I think his tactic has mostly worked to find someone who would convene the meeting, who had credibility for this task force working group, and then just use it as kind of a dumpster to take really key issues and throw them in the dumpster called a working group.
A working group that didn't have to report, and that there was confusion on if they were even meeting yesterday at the meeting. People had no idea what they even did, had never heard from them. Yeah. So it was not good.
And my question,
Jim was in DC at the time of the resolution committee. Jim was in DC. Sorry, India, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that I've been a member of working groups that are far less important than this particular one. And we take roll, we take notes. There is an agenda, like there's some record of the meeting. There must be somewhere. Like you're not just going to get on the phone and chit chat if you're a part of this working group. So like, where is all the information, right? And back to my original question for Mr. Martin, where is the transparency, right? Like so many organizations now have the capacity to just put the meeting minutes online, and that would take care of all of our questions, and you wouldn't be confronted.
Yeah. Great point. I mean, we were told they had dinner together in Los Angeles a few months after they were announced. That was their first gathering, dinner. That's really not even a meeting, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Right. I'm assuming they put the meeting minutes in the same drawer that the autopsy is in. So
Yeah. And it probably doesn't, I gather minutes don't even exist.
I would assume not.
Yeah.
I would assume they would not write their own arguments down if they won't ever even have one in public. I don't think they would write them down.
Well, there's the lack of work of a working group, and then there's also what I would refer to as oil and water. If you're going to have a solution come out of it, how do you do that when you throw oil and water together? I mean, there's some vehement pro-Israel people on that so-called working group. So how does that end up as part of the mix that's going to come up with some sort of report combined with people who are for Palestinian rights? It's just
right.
It's designed to fail, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, seeking middle ground on genocide is a losing strategy. I don't think it's ever worked anywhere ever. You're never going to come to an agreement if someone thinks you're committing genocide.
Yeah.
Israel is doing.
That's for
So,
sure.
yeah, designed to fail, and that's exactly what it's done. And it's hid the reality from most voters.
Well, it all has a very distinct odor of opportunism and dishonesty and deception. And then from another level, and I would guess this is the huge part of the approach, is that they believe that you get the party together to defeat the Trump folks, that this is how you beat MAGA, and that even people being blown up in the Middle East is less important to them than maximizing the chance to defeat Republicans.
And I think the problem with that logic is that it's evergreen. And so the party is never incentivized to take risks or to move politically, because leadership will say, well, we've got to have a united front. We've got to get moderates. We've got to get swing voters into the party. And to do that, we have to have the most milquetoast, middle of the road platform possible. As one person said yesterday in the resolutions committee who was arguing against the genocide resolution, the resolutions become the platform of the party. And if the platform becomes this progressive, evolving document, then it hamstrings centrist Democrats. And this person clearly didn't want that to happen. And so this is why we get in this sort of Groundhog Day cycle with the party.
Yeah. There's the report that it was either in the Hill or Politico that 2 expected presidential candidates were lobbying against those resolutions on Israel. And then I saw Ro Khanna put out a tweet.
Yeah.
Who can tell us the names of those candidates? Because then he wants to go and denounce them. So.
Right. Me and Sam talked about that at the top of the live stream, and we came up with some names. We're pretty sure, not to know for sure, but if it's 2 front runners who don't want us to condemn AIPAC, seems a lot like Newsom and Harris. Although we don't know for sure. It could have been less.
Unfortunately, there's about 15 expected candidates who might fit the bill.
Right. But most of them wouldn't be able to sway the whole party as much as the big shots. Right.
By the way, there's a Washington Post story from about 3 hours ago that Kamala Harris was greeted with chances of run at some event. And she said, I'm really thinking about it.
Right. That's the 11th time that story has come out over the last year, it feels like.
I think we can add her name to the list, though, at this point. It seems pretty clear that she's getting ready to run.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of ego.
I did read her book, and she does recycle the same energy, And I don't know. I was talking with one person around Congress who said he thinks that Newsom is to the right of Harris, which is probably probably there's plenty of evidence of that at this point. 5 years ago, maybe that wasn't true, but Newsom has plunged so far to the center.
Well, Newsom is, one of these people who's going around talking about how the party needs to talk about trans people less, and is pro bathroom bans and things like this, is sounding like a real Republican. So I think that's how he believes he can win. by moving as far right as he can and staying in the party.
Yeah, and the big tent rhetoric, I loved what he said because it was so revealing. He said, I want this party to go from Mondami to Manchin. And so he envisions a party, which, historically has been true. The Democratic Party has spanned from right to left in so many ways, including during the New Deal. I mean, you had ardent segregationists teamed up with progressives for the New Deal. And, Roosevelt navigated that, made that happen. But, Joe Manchin was responsible, along with Sinema, for blocking so much progressive possible legislation. So the idea, hey, you're going to have people like that in the party and welcome them in, and then you're going to have Zoran Mondani in, and we're all going to get along. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to work. Oh. All right, where are we at now on this meeting?
The resolution has been provided for each of you for your reference. With that, Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the report as presented.
Oh, now there are motions?
Thank you to the co-chairs. It has been moved, and
I wish they would turn up their volume.
It's so low, there's nothing I can do.
It has been presented to you at this point. We would move to open for discussion. Is there
Okay,
any
discussion on, I believe, the resolutions.
Is there any discussion on the report as presented? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote.
So
All
this
those
is
in favor
just
say aye.
just for awareness. I think that there are now a series of reports from the different committees that met.
Oh, okay.
That they're going to adopt. So this may not be that was the resolutions committee report.
Thank you, members. I'd now like to welcome to the stage a real partner of all of ours who I work with so closely, and our team works very closely with, to make sure that we're meeting our fiduciary obligations here at the DNC. Please welcome to the stage our treasurer from the great state of Pennsylvania, Virginia McGregor.
They'll have to adopt the treasurer's report, so on and so forth.
Yeah, okay, so this is boring.
Well, hello, Democrats.
I'm trying to see if I can figure out when the resolutions report will be up.
Probably towards the end, if India's right about them trying to run out of time on purpose, that would make a lot of sense. I remember what the young guy looks like who was leading that meeting, so I would probably recognize him.
Yeah. I believe that was Malcolm Kenyatta.
Oh, was that Malcolm Kenyatta? Okay, yeah.
So I couldn't see, but
And then on Good Friday, our grandson James Paddock came into the world in Scranton, Pennsylvania. But it's nothing like events like that.
Do we think David Hogg would be useful if he would have stayed in at this point? Or if he would have taken a different strategy with how tactics?
My husband and I often talk about, my husband Bob is here with me today, and we talk about.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I actually don't think so. I think
You
that
don't
he's
think so,
probably
yeah?
more useful on the outside.
Probably is. He's been on media a lot the last week, kind of talking about this.
Next generation. And so now I have two more faces and two more names and two more reasons to make sure we do exactly that. So when I tell you that the stakes have never been higher, I mean it in the most personal way. Every journey has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I believe we are at the beginning of the middle. And thanks to Chair Martin's Organizing Everywhere, Win Anywhere strategy, we have laid the foundation for the success in the midterms. Our finances are strong. In January,
Finance Committee. The Win Everywhere strategy, reminder, in 2016, after Hillary lost, one of the stories came out was that Hillary had set a strategy for how to attract Latino voters in Florida. And then she just copied and pasted that. I forget what was the name of her campaign manager. I forget. But they reused that
Robbie
strategy.
Mook.
Yeah, and they just reused that strategy everywhere, completely unaware that Latinos are not just like a mass that all vote the same. So like taking this Florida strategy that talked about Cuba was like not useful in California or in New York or in Chicago, So yeah, this idea that we're just going to go out and win anywhere and we're going to use the same message everywhere, but the message is convoluted nonsense. It's just not going to work. The messages that work everywhere are the anti-war messages, are the anti-corporate messages, anti-APAC messages. Those aren't the ones that they're going to take. So the idea of winning anywhere, it's just not possible. It's not going to happen.
And giving what they can and betting on a better future. That kind of grassroots energy combined with the incredible
Well, the classic is Bernie winning every county against Hillary Clinton in 2016 in West Virginia.
They believe in the Democratic Party,
Messages.
and so do
Yeah.
we. Democrats are ready to deliver. We are strategically making inroads nationwide, and the results speak for themselves. Our strong public support proves enduring faith in our party and confirms our readiness. We're all here today because we believe in that work. We believe in a country that can work for everyone. We believe in our ability to do it together. Look around this room. We could be anywhere in the world today, yet we choose
Do we know
to be
what
right here
she's presenting
together
now?
to reach that goal.
I believe the finance committee.
The thing that I find most interesting is that these are supposed to be the smart people, and you never hear them talk about numbers. It's like everything is good, everything's
Yeah.
fine, you're doing great, and like that's it. Like if you think that you have broad public support, tell us how many individual donors you have and what the average donation is. Can we get that kind of information?
Can you show me that how it has increased or decreased versus last cycle, and how about versus the last midterms leading into it? Where are we at relative? Yeah, any of that would be really good. They're not. Yeah, they're not going to give that type of info.
I want to tell you, we have had, since Ken has been elected in 2025, we raised $105 million. That is more than we've ever raised.
I think that's versus like 340 million or something for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
It is the second most we've won ever. Second most we've ever raised ever.
And just keep in mind, Trump raised like 350 million for the ballroom. That's not real. It's like this idea that 105 million dollars is like useful.
Ever. We've never done that. I've been around since 1994 involved with the DNC. I have to give a shout out to our chair. Ken Martin is without a doubt, there has never been a chair that has worked harder. He works 7 days a week.
This is a direct response to the articles that are coming out about his failure to deliver on the fundraising.
Oh, yeah. Oh, as of right now, or as of February 2nd, 2 months ago, the RNC had $100 million more dollars than the DNC.
This first quarter, we have in major donor have raised 180% of our goal. 180%. So I live with only positivity. I hate negativity. Just despise it. Being a cancer survivor 3 times, you want to survive, you have to think positively. You can't live in negativity. We never quit. So please, everyone, block out the noise. I'm sick of the noise. We are doing incredibly well. This chair and our staff are coming up with programs that are making real change to how we are going to conduct our elections. Real change. I have never seen in a 12-year period in my 34 years involved with the DNC the kind of monumental changes that I see. The transparency that I see
We're doing
from the
incredibly
DNC.
well.
Today, we had a budget and finance committee meeting, and I got to tell you, I never even knew that the DNC prior to this, never even really think prior to this, we had a real concrete, well thought out budget. That's because of this man and his promises. to
What
our
is it?
organization.
What's the budget?
So
Can
all
we
I
see
wanna
it?
tell you and leave you with this
Where's
is
the money going?
Just block out the noise. Stay on course.
I'm the noise, I think.
Stay on with positivity. And I promise you, as I was quoted in the paper, and you know what? I think I'm entitled to say this. We are going to kick the Republicans' ass. I don't give a damn how much money they raise.
More strategy.
Here comes the profanity, Norman, you were
I
talking
was
about.
just gonna say the cussing to look
Raise the
authentic.
money like we are, and I promise you, we are going to win. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. One thing I wanted to say on this fundraising piece, because there always seems to be stories out there. Chris is exactly right on this. We don't need to outraise the Republicans. We just need to raise enough money to be in the ring, to be able to compete and fight back. And I want to share one quick story with you on that. Taylor Remmett in Fort Worth, Texas. You all know this. Kendall knows this. His opponent, his Republican opponent, raised $2.5 million. Taylor Remmett runs in a 17-point Trump district. He ends up winning by 14 points, a 31-point swing, by the way. You know how much money he raised and spent? $380,000 to her $2.5 million. We don't need to outraise the Republicans. We just need to be in the ring to fight back, and we're doing that. Of that $105 million that we raised, I want you to think about this. To date, in grassroots donations, people giving $5, $10, $15, $20 a month on average. Our contributions in our small dollar program are $51. You know how much we've raised? Over $100 million. That is an all-time record. And what that also shows is that people are willing to invest. It shows that we're raising.
Clever use of wording there. Our small dollar donation campaign average. So they just cut it off at $55 and then the average is $51. Like, what are you talking about?
So look, with that, it's my honor to introduce our two co-chairs of our Budget and Oversight Review Committee.
Okay, so budget and oversight now. So he mentioned that Democrats don't have to raise as much money as Republicans to win. And I think that's largely true. I think historically, if you look 20 years ago, whoever raised the most money won. It's not necessarily the case anymore. But if you're going to run these very standard establishment status quo campaigns with Democrats, then you're going to be hiring standard establishment status quo consultants. And then you do need all the money because they're going to charge you $100,000 for your TV ad. They're going to charge you these huge sums of money to do all of this. And they're not just the actual activists and volunteers that you need on the ground to do things. So it's totally possible to beat Republicans. It's much harder to do it with less money and running an establishment status quo campaign that's not bringing out the volunteer base you need when you're working with and hiring the consultant class.
There's also a difference between having less money than a candidate, than your opponent, I mean, and having less money by a factor of 3 or 4 or 5. I think that's really what the party's up against right now, is that the Republicans have X number times more money in the bank than they do. And that's a bigger problem than just saying we didn't raise much money.
And I also think that there's this part that's missing in the middle, where it's not only about how much Democrats are raising, but how much money is spent in primary races, and how, like, in Democratic primaries, the person with the most money sometimes does eclipse the actual best candidate. So I think that that's also like something that the party is going to have to reconcile with, right? Why do we have a Wesley Bell in Congress instead of a Cory Bush?
Yeah, the huge amounts of money involved.
Yeah, ask Nina Turner the same question there in her district. When I managed a congressional, we won our in Arizona several years ago. We won our primary, but we only raised a couple $100,000, just like he said. And our primary opponent had like $1.5 million, and we beat them because she was wasting so much of it on nonsense. But if she had 2 or 2.5 million, we wouldn't have been able to keep up with them. Yet you can't be outraised by, like Sam is saying, tenfold or anything like that. You got to be close.
I remember when Jen O'Malley Dillon was chairing the so-called Unity Reform Commission before she went on to work in the Biden White House and then be the de facto, she had a title, it wasn't quite campaign manager, but she was essentially co-running the campaign for Biden for re-election and then for Harris. And they really spiked, and I would give Jim Zogby credit. Jim was trying to get them to be transparent about how the DNC was spending their money with consultants, and they just refused. And Jenna Melly Dillon, to a large extent, just prevented that transparency. Well, naturally, her buddies made a lot of money when Harris ran for president in 2024.
Oh yeah, I mean, they didn't want to release any of that. You had Oprah's Harpo Productions getting $1 million for something. You had $1 million for Beyonce, and here and there. It was embarrassing how they spent money on those campaigns.
I remember that guy, Danilon, or whatever his name was. This is in the original Sin book, I think, or something that Alex Thompson and Jake Tapper wrote. I read it somewhere, seemed very solid, that when Danilon was leaving the Biden White House, his parachute money, he wanted $4 million.
I was talking to someone here the other day who said that there's a consulting group that's active in his state, and he didn't want me to be specific, but that has been paid $20 million over the last few years by the Democratic Party. And he spoke to people all over his state. He spoke to Ken Martin, and no one knows what that money has gone to. So there's just huge amounts of money floating through this ecosystem, and people can't even specifically say what it is or where it's going.
Well, Sam, India, do you guys want to form a establishment Dem consulting firm?
We've seen the light, and we're sorry, and our bank account is open.
Yeah, we apologize.
Put out the shingle, Walton and Rosenthal.
I mean, it has a nice ring to it. Walton, Rosenthal, and Black. Like, we love it. But unfortunately, I'm getting to that age where, like, I like to get a good night's sleep. So,
yeah,
my bank account is empty, but my heart is at rest.
Yeah, really. The mirror can be looked in. Yes. Well, there is that question. I mean, it's sort of cliche, but when the genocide kept going on, you just have to wonder, how did those people in the Biden White House, and Antony Blinken, how did they just look themselves in the mirror and say, this is okay?
Something
folks
greater
have been at the
good.
press tour too, sort of explaining themselves. Since then, we've seen Brett McGurk and people like that going on all the shows to explain, well, really, this is what I was thinking, but we had to do this because. So I think they understand how unpopular their moves were, but it's a bit too late now.
Yeah. The repair of their reputation it's really a stretch.
Explanations of why and how, but I don't know that I've heard any apologies or anything like that.
Yeah.
We should be coming towards the end here.
This seems like to be the bylaws committee.
And that's boring intra-parties. Yeah.
And then our sources, as the saying goes, tell us that there will be some effort to re-raise resolutions that were killed in committee. But I wouldn't bet on any of that getting very far, although hopefully I'm wrong.
Is this a situation, Norman, where someone could right now they would bring it to the floor of the whole committee and try to get like a 50% yay up down vote, or like how does it work?
Well, that would be a lowercase d Democratic Party.
Well, how does it work in the capital D Democratic Party? Is there a process through which they could get a resolution through right now?
I think the rules say that with 25%, it can be brought to the floor for debate and discussion, but not like for a revote, I believe.
Okay, so someone would have had to have collected 100 signatures in the last 24 hours, pretty much.
I think progressives don't have that kind of money to bribe enough people.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Give fees to enough.
Right, give fees.
To deliver the
Contract.
committee's report. Ron.
Resolutions committee. Here we go.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So this is Ron Harris, apparently.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, he really lied, and he said that the working group had met monthly. And I sent him 2 emails. How did you get that information? He never answered.
I want to hear this.
Yoli Bejarano, who could not make it this week. She left me with the easy work this week, but she's gonna And I'm here to present the report of our committee's work from yesterday's session. But I want to start
I
with
wish we
this.
could hear it.
The conversation was not always comfortable. There are resolutions before us that carry real political weight and real moral weight as well. Members disagreed and voices were raised. Amendments were offered, debated, and in some cases narrowly decided. That is what happened, and I am proud of our members for their participation in this process. I'm proud because the committee did something that I think this party needs a lot more of, not less. We sat in a room together and we heard each other out. We voted, and where we landed through a democratic process that every member on the committee had an equal voice in shaping. I also want to acknowledge that the committee's work included difficult conversations. Not every resolution received the same
There were
outcome,
no
and I
conversations.
respect
There were
that
zero
members in the room
conversations.
may feel strongly about that. The process, similar to democracy, is imperfect. But as leaders, our job is to keep working to make it better, even as we stumble and struggle along the way. Being frustrated with the party comes with the territory.
So we're piggybacking on the DNC
Stick around a little
live stream, right?
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like Jesse Jackson said, God is not done with this party yet, and neither am I. So I appreciate the participation. We met yesterday to consider the resolutions included in the Secretary's 14-day mailing. We reviewed 27 message resolutions and 13 commemorative resolutions. They are recommended by the committee for approval by this body. I want to take a moment to name a few, not because the others matter less than these, but because I think it's important for everyone in the room to see the full breadth of what you're
Well, we can read the words underneath the screen, right?
Yeah. Oh, I can hear. If you turn your volume up, you can hear it. It's just when we talk, we'll be a lot louder.
And Alex Preddy, and calling for accountability and constitutional protections. This resolution matters to me personally, of course, because of what happened in my hometown of Minneapolis and how we responded and how you all showed up with us and showed up for us. And we thank you for that and showed the best, I think, of our humanity. We passed a resolution condemning the influence of dark money in the 2026 Democratic primary elections. Because if we can't protect the integrity of our own primaries, we have no business asking voters to trust the process. We passed a resolution supporting family farmers and ranchers, the people who feed this country and too often get forgotten by both parties. So many of them used to be Democrats, and I believe that we can get them back. We passed a resolution recognizing the role of young people in the Democratic Party.
Can I fix it?
As an almost aged out young Dem myself, the next generation is not waiting for an invitation. They are already here, and we need to act like it. We received and passed an urgent, timely resolution commemorating the legacy of Coral Springs.
Is that better volume?
Mayor and Florida Democratic Party Vice Chair.
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
Nancy was taken from us by gun violence, and I'd ask you to hold her family and her community in your hearts today. And of course, we passed a resolution honoring the life and the career of Reverend Jesse Jackson, a man who expanded the definition of what's possible for us and in American politics for all of us. Lastly, I want to thank every DNC member who took the time to draft and submit a resolution, whether it passed or whether it was amended. That act of putting your name on something that you believe in and sending it through a process, that is the institution working its way the way that it's supposed to work. And it deserves our respect, so thank you for submitting those. And I want to thank the DNC staff who supported this process and the members of the committee who showed up and did the work. Mr. Chair, I believe our job is to leave our politics better than it was when we found it, and on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move approval of the resolutions as recommended in our report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Members, the report has been submitted to you at this point. I want to just also say that this is, it's not an easy role, of course, and I want to thank Kim and Yoli, the members of the committee, of course, and all the sponsors of the resolutions, and all the thoughtfulness and, of course, the care that everyone put into producing this report. It's important, as Ron said, to have conversations and to continue to be open to those conversations, and I appreciate you, Ron, and the committee having those conversations yesterday. The report has been submitted to you at this point, DNC. At this point, is there any discussion? Okay, member, if you could identify your name and which state you are from.
Some actual discussion.
And you're moving to amend this point, yep, it's been moved. There is a second. Thank you. So at this point, since the report has been submitted, you would have to actually move to divide the question at this point. So, okay, someone has moved to divide the question. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to divide the question. Okay. And I will just grant that we are going to divide the question at this point. Okay, now we are going to pull out number 28 at this point. Okay.
Oh, Sam's back in there. Number
It's been moved and
28, which
seconded
one
to
was
divide
that?
the question for the purpose of considering amendment number, resolution number 28. All those in favor? Okay, that's fine.
28 was abolition of ICE.
I'm sorry, here's what Helen wants me to do, our parliamentarian. What we're going to do first is we are going to approve the report without 28 in it. Does that make sense? Okay. So the first motion is to divide the question. We are going to approve the committee's report without 28.
Can I explain what's happening real quick here? So yesterday, resolution 28 was a resolution calling for the abolition of ICE. What they did during the resolution committee meeting yesterday was take out the language about abolishing ICE and turned it into like a reform kind of thing. So now they're voting just to completely remove even that.
We're getting some feedback, right? I don't know if you can hear that.
I can. Is that from me?
Seems like it's sort of like a delay of what we were just saying.
I'm up. It's okay. I muted you, Norman. So.
And remember that the resolution, some of the most controversial resolutions from yesterday.
You know, I'm afraid that they're going to approve everything else but 28.
We are going to actually move on the motions to divide these out. And we're going to move them individually before we move to a vote on the report. So at this point, the first motion that was made by Cameron Landon was to divide out resolution 28. It's been moved and seconded. It's not debatable, correct? So at this point, all those in favor of dividing out, separating out from the main motion, resolution 28, say aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The nays clearly
Nays
have it.
yeah.
Now the
Wow.
second motion, and if the maker of the motion could rise and mention their name and which state they're from, so we have it for the record. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Cameron. And now the same thing. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to divide out resolution number 10 from the report for consideration. All those in favor of this amendment to divide the question and debate resolution 10 signify by saying aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the nays clearly have it. Thank
Resolution 10 was
there
about
any
condemning
other
the influence
amendments?
of dark money in the 2026 Democratic primary elections. It's the one they took APAC out of. And
Yeah.
or is that the one they took crypto and AI out of in the
Yeah,
resolution?
all of the above.
Main report, which is now not amended, is in front of you. Is there any discussion?
And
Is there
and remember that the Gaza resolution did not even make the report, so they can't
Right.
do the same
That is
procedure.
discussion.
Right, 14 and 15.
There can be 3 speeches in favor and 3 speeches and
Right. Good point.
as presented. So if you would like to debate, this is the time to do it.
So kicking that stuff to the
Cameron, just
subcommittee
wait a
again
moment so we can get you a
guaranteed that there
microphone.
wouldn't be any general
If you
discussion.
would like to speak
Right.
in
No
favor of the report
second
Ken,
bite of it.
or
Ken.
against the report,
He's a smart guy.
there will be people on the floor with microphones. And you will have
I'm
2
really
minutes
interested
as
in
our
what
standing
this
rules
debate is
provide,
about, though.
up to 2 minutes for any
So
speech in
now it's
favor
going to be
or
speeches in
against
favor and
report
against the passage of the resolutions committee report. So this is
And
again the
we will
whole
just
committee.
start
So I
with
think
Cameron, since
we'll
he's
hear
ready
4
to speak.
speeches. Oh yeah, here's Cameron.
If you could come to order, please. Thank you, Cameron. Please come to order.
I don't know if he's going to be arguing to go back to the abolish ICE language or if he's going to say we should get rid of this entirely because ICE is so cool.
Lovely. Very quickly.
Oh, no, he's a good
Cameron
guy.
Lander. I'm the vice president of the College Democrats of America. I'm proud DNC member for Georgia. Apologies. Very briefly, I will say resolution number 28 was amendment as was introduced by the vice chair of the High School Democrats of America. Previously, it said abolish ICE. That language was removed. I believe in the immediate abolition of ICE. I believe that is a necessity, and we should be open about that as a party because there are people demand it. When we're having people taken off of our streets, we're having people killed, we must do something about it. Furthermore, I do believe that we need to explicitly call out where the dark money is coming from. Resolution number 10, which was amended, removed mentions of dark money coming from cryptocurrency and from AI. We need to be specific. You name exactly who is doing it. Furthermore, I do believe that the DNC must recognize the genocide in Gaza, call out, and when we call out the evil of the war in Iran, we must also say that arming the co-belligerent powers is wrong. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you to the member from Georgia. Thank you, Cameron.
Wonderful.
Up next, I see a speaker. Please identify your name and what state you're from.
Steve Kerrigan from the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I rise to urge all of my colleagues to support this report from the Resolutions Committee. They worked incredibly hard.
This is completely inaudible, sadly, but this is someone speaking in for.
He said that they worked incredibly hard, and that's why they should go ahead and pass it because we're just a team.
Yeah. You know, the 4 speeches will be pretty full of the same platitudes we've been hearing all weekend, I suspect. But I think it's notable, you know, I'm just going to talk over this person because I can't even hear them. But I think it's notable that you heard a lot of cheers and applause for what Cameron there was saying, who's the vice president of the College Democrats.
The only and loudest cheers we've heard.
Yeah. And so, you know, it just goes to show you that this isn't a party that has consensus on these issues. And if anyone tells you that, you should believe them. Ken Martin, again, is hard at work to make it seem that way, but it's not the case.
Any other discussion? Okay. Oh, okay.
That was such a weak defense of what it is now, too.
Okay, Matt, go. We'll give it to Matt first. Go ahead, Matt. Jonah.
Turn the mics on, guys.
Jonah. Please introduce yourself, Jonah.
Jonah Garson, I'm Vice Chair for North Carolina Democratic Party. I'm speaking today for myself. I'm speaking to folks here as a Jewish Democrat. I was disappointed to see the language singling out AIPAC stripped from the dark money resolution.
Oh, good.
Eminently deserves to be singled out. AIPAC as a
Listen to your voters.
Jew, as a Jewish Democrat, makes me less safe. And the only threats I've ever gotten politically and professionally have come from folks who are Jewish like me, who are Jewish Americans, who are affiliated with AIPAC or Democratic Majority for Israel. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's quite the
Thank you to
statement.
the member from
What
North
it, so
Carolina.
can someone tell me what he said? I didn't
We've
hear
now had
that very
2
well.
speeches. Again,
He
He said that as a. Go ahead, India.
He said that as a Jewish American, he's never gotten a threat from any other PAC besides AIPAC, and that he's
Yeah.
disappointed that they took the language out.
Yeah.
And he name dropped DMFI as well.
Yeah.
Which,
So again, you see, a lot of people who agree with those resolutions that were tabled.
We're not voting on what's still in the inkwell. There's been a lot of focus on an issue that is still being worked on by a task force, by this body, by our committees. That's not what we're voting on right now. We're voting on what's before us in this report.
This man bravely standing up for parliamentary procedure.
Underscores, highlights all of our democratic values that we all believe in this room.
I mean, the argument that 3 years into a genocide that we're working on it and we just need more time, it's insane.
Which does anything but save our democracy. Values like making sure we protect vote by mail.
So he's using the same argument that the first guy used too, which is that because this packet of resolutions includes things like opposing the SAVE Act, we have to support it because the SAVE Act is so important to stop, which completely misses the point of separating these into different questions.
Right.
Rise in support. I urge everyone to vote.
Notice this also is that the people who are speaking against the adoption of the package are speaking from the heart and from knowledge and from, right? And the people who are speaking in favor of passing it as it is and ending the debate are reading. The one guy was reading from his cell phone, and the second guy had a piece of paper in his hand. They've been instructed to obstruct.
Who wrote their little speeches?
I wonder. Starts with an A and ends in pack.
Member over there, the member over there at, go ahead, Sandra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Sandra Williams from the great state of Georgia. I am also a labor unionist with the Retail Wholesale Partners Association. And I rise to speak in favor of adopting the resolution package. As a member of the Resolutions Committee, I am proud of the
She's reading, India.
But yesterday, the Resolutions Committee voted to pass a resolution condemning corrosive influence of all dark money. Not a specific dark money, all dark money.
All lives matter.
This woman also spoke yesterday pretty aggressively against having the specific industry language in there. So, and also reading yesterday. So, someone who was prepared for this moment.
That'd be interesting to look at her fundraising numbers.
She's now citing Elizabeth Warren's tweet congratulating the passage of this resolution.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you to the member from Georgia. Is there any further discussion?
If you don't know what's going on, what Elizabeth Warren said seems okay. Like condemning dark money is good, but if you actually know what's happening.
I do see a delegate over there. This will be the last speech.
Scorched earth. Let's
Please
go.
identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Zayed Kadir. I am the chair of the High School Democrats of America and a delegate from New York. I am speaking against. The Resolution 10, the original intent of the resolution was to name AI and crypto as they are the forces actively fighting against working people in this election cycle. The amendments made to the resolution strips those names out, giving those industries cover instead of standing behind the American people.
Correct.
It's a hard thing to defend Democrats when we are seeing Democratic candidates side with crypto and AI, spending tens of millions of dollars to win Democratic primaries instead of listening to American people. The resolving clauses are identical. Nothing changes in what we are doing, but rather whether we are honest about who we are fighting for. I urge you to choose the side of the American people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Seems so obvious.
At this point, per our standing rules, we have exhausted debate. We will now call the question.
Hilarious. Is that not funny?
All those in favor of approving the credentials report as submitted, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. It's the resolutions report. All those in favor of approving the resolutions report as submitted, signify by saying aye. All those opposed, say nay. The resolutions report passes Thank you so much to all the members on the committee for their work. Thank you. Members.
So that's kind of the main event there.
That was the debate. That was the Democratic Party's.
Yes, thank you. That's a fair point. Thank you, member, for that. Next time we will have mic stands for those of you to come up. Thank you for that suggestion. Okay, with that, it is my honor now to introduce our next guest. A good friend of mine and a former mayor of this great city of New Orleans, Mark Morial, who now serves as a CEO of the National Urban League.
So do we want to talk about how sad and disappointing and weird that just was?
I need to look at my poker face.
I'm like shocked that they just, I mean, that's the end of the debate. You had 3 people get 40 seconds. It was all like young people who are very much involved, and they're just shot down for a voice vote.
Yeah, sadly, I think kind of a foregone conclusion after yesterday, but still really depressing.
Yeah. And voice votes seem to be the way they go. They don't record, do they?
Yeah.
Anything. It was asked at the resolutions committee to record, and they were like, absolutely not. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, they voted. I mean, they voted not to record the votes.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Was that a recorded vote?
That was not a recorded vote, which is unusual. I mean, usually that's, I don't know the term in parliamentary procedure, but that's, roll call is usually privileged, I think. And, but.
Well, that's pretty much, I think that the forces aligned with AIPAC and and Martin, they can we did it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cameron and to Zaid, and I forget the other person's name, but shout out to them for speaking up. That takes a lot of courage. And I mean, if you notice, like it's the president of the high school Democrats and of the college Democrats, right? And like I keep saying, the young people are going to save us. Like that's the only hope that we have.
Yeah.
If he sticks with it, why would he stay in a party that's going to shit on him for the next 20 years?
Well,
that's the hard part.
Because we have the Republican Party, and we have one party that can defeat them. I think that's the short answer.
Right. But you also have the alternative of just not caring anymore and just getting a job and making money and checking out. And that's what you don't want when you have these great young leaders who are putting themselves out there and then just being like ritually ignored. It's a shame. Such a waste. And this guy, the former mayor of New Orleans, he came up there and immediately pitched New Orleans as to host the 2028 convention. So
sure.
When he became a member of the Louisiana State Legislature since Reconstruction. He later served as his city's first African-American mayor. Between his time serving as a delegate to the Democratic National Convention and my time serving 7 times as a delegate to the Democratic National Convention, our family was a delegate to the Democratic National Convention continuously from 1968 to 2004. And so I want everyone to know from where I come. I also want all of you to know that it was when I served as mayor of this city that this state twice went for Bill Clinton, and that we elected John Breaux, J. Bennett Johnston, and Mary Landrieu to the United States Senate. Now, why am I here? This nation today has misplaced priorities. Since the year 2000, we have spent $25 trillion on wars. When Bill Clinton left office, he ushered in a budget that was balanced. What the Republican Party has given us is huge tax cuts followed by wars, followed by deficits and recessions. In 1992, Bill Clinton came in and cleaned it up. In 2000, George W. Bush came in and messed it up. And it was a cycle of wash, rinse, and repeat. When Barack Obama was elected to the presidency in 2008, the country had gone from surplus to deficit, from peace to war. And there came Barack Obama and cleaned up.
Maybe there's
George
something that could be
Bush's mess.
interjected here about the hagiography of Bill Clinton.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, Bill Clinton brought us, among other things, NAFTA, the 1996 Telecommunications Reform Act, in combination with, as with NAFTA, Newt Gingrich and Republicans. He helped advance mass incarceration. He oppressed millions of women who were on welfare with so-called welfare reform. And here we are in 2026, and we're at a Democratic Party event, and he's being praised as some kind of hero.
Bill Clinton has his hands in pretty much every single issue that irks progressives today, whether it's NAFTA and the trade agreements. I think the Telecom Act of 96 is way more responsible for our current state of politics than anyone realizes, with what it did to destroy local journalism and prop up these big syndicators and the big companies in telecom that we have now, destroying local news. Yeah, Bill Clinton was a disaster, but of course they're going to hold him up because that's this guy's pathway to getting the DNC in New Orleans in 2028. So it just doesn't even matter to them.
Yeah. And I remember Bill Clinton went to Michigan in October of 2024 and insulted Arab Americans directly. And he was there ostensibly to help Kamala Harris.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, right.
Without a commitment to democracy, you can't get the public policy agenda of affordability. This party,
even that is just such the whole idea that the Democratic Party's whole language is based on affordability, and they talk about affordability. That is the big issue today, but they don't talk about the policies that make things more affordable, like Medicare for all or universal daycare or free college or any of those things. It's about affordability, but where they're not going to tell you how things are going to get affordable. It's just that Trump makes things more expensive.
the whole American family. The American family. Not whether it's going to be a focus on black voters or white working class voters, but whether it's going to be a party that embraces the entire American family. Black people and white people and Hispanics and Asians and indigenous Americans, urban, suburban, and rural, rich and poor and very poor, LGBT and straight, and whatever your gender identity, and whatever your belief system is, or you have no belief system when it comes to religion. This party must re-embrace its identity as a party with open doors and a big tent for everyone. And here's why. That is what is the future of America. And this party must reject, and its candidates must reject the idea that, well, we need to focus more on this one versus that one. We need to focus on everybody, the whole American family. And when I look at this room,
I don't know what he's talking about. Does anyone have any idea what he's talking about? When have Democrats, what is he talking about?
I'm not sure what this one and that one meant in that sentence.
And we need a bigger tent party, like that's the whole strategy right now.
It's not make America great. It's America for all. An America that represents all Americans. And this party is in a mini crisis because it has strayed from that ethos. When it won in 32 or 60 or 76,
You might be about to cook. Hold on.
or 2008 or 2020, it's because it embraced every aspect of the American family.
I promise you, the victory in 1932 did not embrace every aspect of the American family.
Re-embrace that ethos. There's been the imposition of false choices between progressives and moderates, working class. There's been a false choice imposed of us by the chattering class, by those in the media and the political prognosticators. We have to embrace, and this party must embrace, its ethos as a party for all Americans. And that takes a tremendous amount of work. And it means the family is messy. There's going to be discussions. There's going to be debate. There's going to be disagreements.
There's no
And
debate.
maybe in the party, everyone will not agree on every policy position. But you can't win. You can't win if you are divided. And a political party does not exist to engage in just intellectual warfare. It doesn't exist to simply engage in public policy debate. It exists to achieve power and win elections.
The mask off moment a
And if
little
you're not
bit.
committed to winning,
We do not care about policy. We want to
so
win.
today, this
Correct.
Democratic Party,
The implicit judgment here too is that you only win by being moderate and middle of the road.
Oh, right. That's
and
the
all
whole
those
underlying.
petals must remain intact to be able to win an election. Or this party,
The chattering
like a
class as
wonderful
he's
New Orleans
looking to
bowl
the
of
side of the room with all the young people who spoke up for God.
with everything added in and adding more, and you make it better. Or this party is like what Reverend Jesse Jackson called the rainbow of all people everywhere. And we have to embrace that framing and that ethos if we are going to be successful at the ballot box in 26 and 28.
So shameful.
Now, let me get real about Black voters and the role we play in the Democratic coalition. African American voters are the most reliable, fundamental, foundational block to the Democratic coalition. And that is not to cast aspersions or diminish the role of anyone. But here is the truth. In 2008, when Barack Obama won the presidency, 64% of African American voters turned out. When he ran for re-election, 69% of African American voters turned out. When 2016 came, 59% of African American voters turned out, and you know the result. You think for a minute that turnout higher by 5 to 7% would have made the difference in Detroit, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Madison, Flint,
All those cities went blue.
and Michigan, and Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, and Michigan?
The whole front end of this speech was about how not to single out groups and that how we're all united. And now it's all about not.
Joe Biden achieved a 64% African American turnout. And election night was celebratory, and the orange man had been kicked from office. 2024 comes around. Kamala Harris runs. Guess what the African American turnout was? Back down to 59%. Back down to 59%. And you know the result. You don't need to be a pollster, a data expert, an AI guru to understand some basic fundamentals. The same holds true for the Latino community and other base vote communities. So why does this happen?
The policy.
happens
This is
because
weird. This is
this
another
party
weird speech.
respectfully has not had a plan and a funded plan on a consistent basis to turn out its base voters. A plan that is funded, a plan that is energized, a plan that is inclusive, and a plan that's designed to win. It's a missing dynamic. One thing you can do is insist and demand that in 26 going forward, there be a plan. I'm speaking specifically about African American voters, but I will tell you the same holds true for other communities.
This is
and when we're in an
very
environment,
weird. I don't
This,
even
I
know.
think this is very weird.
Yeah, this is weird.
bots and campaigns of disinformation and dissuasion targeted at our community. It's 2016.
I mean, the idea that Kamala Harris didn't have a plan to target Black voters when I believe her opening thing included Megan Thee Stallion and a step team. Like, I think that was like her whole. It seems like he's just saying things.
That's not a plan, though.
Well, it's not a plan. Well, her plan, I think, really was hiring young Black celebrities that she was like semi-aware of.
Well, Megan Thee Stallion fans are not triple prime voters, babe.
No, it turns out.
On the phone, targeted to specific voters to discourage them from participating and to create abject confusion in this environment. We need a plan. Number two, related to that, you all got to get the hogs away from the trough of consulting. Too many hogs have been parked at the trough. And if they delivered victories, I love them. But if you can't deliver a victory, you are fired. Get out of here. I don't want to see you again. Consultants and experts should be judged on performance. Nothing else. Not on friendship, not on connections, not on all shucks.
I'm
Blaming
surprised
everything but
Shepherd took yet.
Say again.
I said I'm surprised they haven't given him the Shepherd took yet.
Right.
Has misplaced priorities.
But they're mentioning everything.
We should be talking about is right sizing those priorities.
They're mentioning everything
25
except
trillion on
policy.
wars. Take $2.5 trillion.
Oh, sorry.
And you could have fixed the affordable housing crisis. Take $4 trillion and you'd fix the healthcare crisis. Take another 2 and you put every kid in community college or play for 2 years of college.
That's about cutting military funding.
And
That's
you
good.
still have money left over. We still have money left over. And these fiscal policies, I say everyone running in 26 should say repeal and replace the big ugly bill. So this is where we are. And I come to you with great sincerity as someone that has been in a celebratory mood on the night of 1992 and a dejected mood in 2000 and 2004 and a celebratory mood in 2008 and 12 and 20 and in a pissed off mood in 2016 and 2024. Ken, thank you. Jamie, Donna, my friends who led this party in the past, other leaders. The power's in our hand. And make no mistake about it. Don't believe the hype that 26 is a fait accompli. Don't believe the hype that 2026 is a fait accompli, because the opposition is coming with ferocity and fear. And they're coming with ferocity and fear and the money of their billionaire buddies. And they're not likely to play fair. They're likely to disinform, misinform, hit below the belt, play every game possible because they're desperate. Because they know and understand if the tide shifts, it may be a long-term shift. We're fed up and we're fired up. I believe that the power is there, but we have to focus on base vote. We have to focus on turnout. We got to focus on organizing back in the communities, in wards, in precincts, in public housing, in urban, suburban, and rural. It's not urban versus suburban. It's not suburban versus rural. It's everyone in the great Democratic coalition. So I appreciate you. Let's say no to complacency and yes to coalition building. No to apathy and yes to a sensible agenda. And let's say no to defeat and yes to victory. Thank you very much.
I mean, I'm not surprised at all, but the general lack of blaming any of the issues on policies is striking to me, whether it's why they lost previously or let's hear him close it out.
Thanks for those powerful words. DNC members, our next guest is truly a powerhouse of modern advocacy and a vital voice for millions across the country. And I got to tell you, he's a community organizer. He's a digital trailblazer. He has fundamentally changed how we communicate the realities of the immigrant experience. He has become a primary source of news and hope for a generation, earning him the nickname, the one-man Telemundo, for his incredible ability to inform, to engage, and mobilize his community at a moment's notice. He reminds us that the power to change the narrative is right in our hands, literally, right in our hands.
I am getting hungry. How long is this event going to go?
20 million followers. He has more people who follow him than most major.
I don't think we're going to see anything else terribly exciting happen. I think that little window to amend the resolutions committee report was kind of the last opportunity, and now it's just going to be a little bit more grandstanding before everyone adjourns to happy hour.
Right.
Please join me in giving me a massive welcome to Carlos Espina.
I don't know who this is. You got 20 million followers.
Well, I'd love to hear some closing words from Sam in India, from the we have heard great city of New Orleans and the not so great DNC.
Yeah, I would just say that gumbo with potato salad is actually delicious. It doesn't sound like it would be, but it is. And as far as the DNC goes, I think that the more I pay attention to these things, the more I believe that the big D Democrats are exactly who we believe them to be. I think that in the aftermath of this, it's incumbent upon us to figure out how we organize so we're not always left with a choice of the lesser of two evils. I actually met a woman who's running for governor of Wisconsin today, and we had a conversation about how getting progressives elected is all of our problem. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's New York City or Wisconsin or Minnesota or wherever, we have to show up for one another and continue to organize, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to move the needle on any of these things. So it's been an eye-opening experience. I'm looking forward to getting with Ryan and maybe doing some short explainers about like how it happens on the inside. It was really eye-opening for me, I think even more so than the national convention, just seeing how people interact with each other, what folks' priorities are, and how difficult it actually is to get your issues heard. So yeah, it's been a very educational and eye-opening experience, and I am grateful for it.
Yeah, I'll second everything India said, and just add that although I often walk away from these meetings feeling pretty disappointed and burnt out to see kind of what we're dealing with on the inside of the party, I do think I've been going to these for a couple of years, and I think that there is a real change afoot within the party, that we're seeing a lot of energy from the progressive wing of the party, and that progressives are becoming more sophisticated in how we do entryism in the party, and that means not just running insurgent campaigns, not just trying to unseat Democrats in primaries, but that we're getting into the machinery of the party. And it feels really bad and kind of thankless, I think. And, I'm thinking of people like Allison Minnerly, people like Reem Soubey, another DNC member who I met, who have been organizing and done great work in their states and don't get a lot of credit for being great organizers, which is what the party needs more of. But I do think that those people are making inroads gradually. And, there is a future out there where we have a better, more militant Democratic Party that actually stands for working people and knows how to take on the fascism of the right. And if people like that win, then it's coming sooner than we thought. But it's a long struggle. So, that's the only thing that gives me hope about these meetings, which otherwise feel pretty bleak at times.
Well, huge appreciation to Sam and India, to both of you for making the trip and getting on planes and all that's involved in going to this sometimes dispiriting event. So huge appreciation.
And shout out to Ryan for holding it down.
That's right. Thank you.
And just all of the folks in New Orleans. We definitely took our marching orders from the folks on the ground, and we're here to support. The billboard was welcomed with great appreciation and fanfare. So just everything came together really, really nicely.
Great. And I got a bunch of clips that we're going to get posted on social media. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. Norman, do you want some final words before we get out of here?
No, just that behind the scenes, people organize, and that's how great things happen.
That's right. Please follow progressivehub.net on social media. Please visit progressivehub.net for daily stories that you can read and take action about right away. And please follow Roots Action across all social media to see more from our week or weekend or a couple days here in New Orleans. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, India. And thank you, Norman, for joining me. And with that, everybody have a nice evening.
See ya. Take care.